Today, I need to confess that I stole my neighbor's cat 6 months ago, because after watching him mistreat it and neglect it for months, I decided to take some action and just take him into my home, resulting in my neighbor looking for him every single day, despite the fact that I definitely have him in my room literally right next to me. And you know what? With all things considered, I don't regret it for a single second. Here's how I did it. Okay, so I live in like this really crappy apartment complex where the walls are basically made of paper, and my neighbor was this guy who probably should not even be allowed to like own a houseplant, let alone a living creature. He had this small black cat that he would just leave out on the balcony for hours regardless of the weather. I could hear the poor thing crying through the vents while he was inside blasting music or even just shouting at his Xbox. One night it started pouring rain and the temperature dropped hard, and I saw the cat shivering on the railing looking miserable. So it was at this moment I reached out over my balcony, grabbing the cat, and I just brought it inside. And I didn't even think about it, I just reacted. The next morning I heard him shouting in the hallway, asking everyone if they saw his pet. And I stood there with the door cracked open and I told him I hadn't seen a thing and that maybe the cat finally jumped off because it was fed up with his crap. He spent weeks putting up posters and walking around the block calling its name while the cat was literally sleeping on my bed 10 feet away from him. It's been about 6 months now, and he still brings it up whenever we cross paths in the laundry room. He looks genuinely devastated sometimes, which would make me feel bad if I hadn't seen him ignore that cat's bowl for days at a time back then. The cat is doing great now, by the way. I renamed him and he's very healthy now. He gets actually fed decent food and doesn't have to freeze his tail off outside, but I have to be extremely careful. I never let him near the windows when the blinds are up, and I have a specific routine for when I take out the trash so he doesn't accidentally like dart into the hallway. It is a very stressful way to live, but seeing the cat actually purring instead of screaming quite literally makes all of it worth the paranoia. My friends think I just adopted him from a shelter in the next town over, and honestly, I am definitely not telling them the truth. Sometimes I see the neighbor at the local bar looking through old photos on his phone, and I just sit there drinking my beer and saying absolutely nothing. Now, I know it is technically theft and I am a liar, but some people just don't deserve the loyalty of an animal. He probably thinks a coyote got it or someone picked it up off the street, which is technically true, I guess. But I guess I just so happen to be that someone. The cat also seems to prefer my taste in movies anyway, so we're just sticking to the plan. I'm also probably gonna move out when my lease is up just to end the risk of him hearing a meowing through the wall. Until then, I'm just the helpful neighbor who offers a sympathetic nod while the evidence is napping in my living room. Okay, dude, I love this so much because no, you're not doing anything wrong. In my opinion, I think you did the right thing and you probably saved that cat's life. Like seriously, who would leave this small little cat on the balcony to shiver and like freeze in the rain? That is so crappy and just so mean. Like, dude, I would have taken that cat in as well. So yeah, this is a good thing. I think you did the right thing by saving this cat, and hopefully you're able to keep the cat safe from this guy from here on out. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My friend really expects me to go on vacation with him after he literally bailed on the one we had booked like not even a few months ago, because the way he's acting right now is kind of weird and it's kind of setting off some red flags, and I just don't know if I should go or not. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, for starters, my friend and I booked a vacation a few months ago to go to Europe, and sometime after like paying the deposit, he told me that he simply couldn't afford it, even though it was his idea and he also works full time, so I'm not sure how he somehow like, I don't know, couldn't budget the money properly, but we ended up canceling. He sent me a long message saying how sorry he was and how bad he felt that I wasn't going anymore, all because of him, by the way. But regardless, I just kept telling him, bro, it's fine, I don't really care that much. And honestly, I was kind of relieved because I was slightly dreading it. I then heard nothing from him for like about 3 months, and I didn't contact him, so I assumed he was over it and would just drop it. But then I received a text from him out of nowhere saying to me that he still feels bad. But apparently he saw another hotel and had dates to go, and he said that this time he could pay for my portion of it as well as his, and then I could pay him back if I couldn't afford it. So suddenly out of nowhere, he has all this money that he somehow couldn't like accumulate earlier in the year. My parents were willing to pay for me to go, but I said no for multiple reasons. One reason being that it was significantly cheaper than the one we were meant to go on, which is never a good sign because the cheaper some place is, the worse quality it is. I was also already going on like 3 other trips, so it's not like I was missing out on like going anywhere. I didn't really want to go with him anyways, and I just wanted him to stop bringing it up because if I don't care, then he shouldn't either. Well, my parents felt like it was a jerk move for him to offer this to me and expect me to say yes and to go with him, especially after he bailed on the one that we booked such a short time ago. And I agree with them, like honestly. It kind of makes it seem like he didn't like the price of the original one that he helped choose, so he canceled and is now offering me a cheaper, worse alternative. So would I be the jerk if I declined to go on this trip that he's trying to like plan out last second? Because it feels kind of sketchy for the reasons I already listed, and I'm just not sure what to do. Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think this guy was like, oh man, this is too expensive. I can't afford it. Oh wait, never mind. Now I can afford it, but it's at a much cheaper location. And it's like, bro, you probably could have afforded the first trip and now you're trying to get a second trip that's like cheaper out of me. Like, no, I don't think so. If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't do this at all. I would just say to him, sorry, but this doesn't fit my schedule and I just don't think I can do this. When in reality, you know for a fact that you're just avoiding a train wreck of a trip. Because this has bad news written all over it and I think it's just going to be a miserable trip if you do end up going. Am I the jerk for secretly buying extra food for my niece? All because her brothers literally eat everything in the house first and basically leave her nothing. Because after I did this, her parents freaked out on me. And honestly, I'm not sure if I made a mistake or if this really is the right decision in this scenario. Here's basically what's going on. Okay, so my brother's family has been staying with me and my wife for around 6 months. And they're doing this so they can save money after moving from another state. And so far, it's been okay and we get along pretty well. They have 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. The boys are both athletes. I think they play like track and basketball, and my god, do they eat a ton. They're teenagers, so they're constantly hungry. I mean, whenever food is made, they usually go back for second servings and they demolish snacks really quickly. But something I started noticing though was that their daughter, who I believe is like 14, would regularly complain that there was barely anything left for her by the time she got to it. I also noticed my brother and his wife usually gave the boys noticeably bigger portions during meals. I figured it was maybe just because the boys are bigger and more active, but I eventually asked my brother about it because it seemed kind of excessive. He then told me that the boys need the calories because they're athletes and still growing, while his daughter doesn't really do sports and just sits around most of the day. He also said he doesn't want her getting overweight as she isn't really like physically active outside of normal school activities. But honestly, I found what my brother said to be very strange, maybe even emotionally damaging to their daughter with the way they handle food. So after that happened, I started buying some extra snacks and drinks and keeping them in the main part of the house, which would be away from where their family mostly stays. I mean, they're in like the guest area of the house, and that has its own kitchen in and of itself. I then quietly told my niece that she could help herself whenever she wanted, so she wouldn't feel like she had to like compete with her brothers for food. Well, eventually my brother found out about this and completely lost it. He accused me of making him look like some terrible parent who was starving his daughter. He said she already gets 3 large meals a day that his wife cooks, and that they do buy her snacks, but she doesn't need to like pig out on them. He also said if I was gonna buy extra food for one of his kids, then I should be letting the boys have access to it too. I told him the entire reason I did it was because the boys already eat most of everything in the house, and his daughter was the only one consistently being left out. So seriously, am I the jerk here? I'm not really sure if I should have gotten involved, but honestly, I felt like I needed to do something, because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, your brother is incredibly sexist. I can say that confidently and without any hesitation. He seriously is looking at his daughter and being like, I don't want you to get fat, but otherwise my boys over here can eat as much as they want. Like, dude, why do you care about that so much? Like, it really seems like this guy is obsessing over his daughter's like appearance and the way she's gonna look by literally underfeeding her. Like, what are we doing right now? Giving all of your food to your sons and then being like, okay, daughter, you get the scraps left behind. Like, that's horrifying. You're mistreating your kid, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, if I saw a kid being underfed, I would immediately do something about it. I would be like, here, you can have as much as you want, and no, your stupid brothers can't have any. They get plenty to eat otherwise. And it's so funny because it's like, oh, if my daughter's gonna have access to this food, then my boys also need to have access to it. And it's like, oh, okay, dude, you literally just showed your hand. You have a clear bias towards your sons, and you just don't care about your daughter. You want your sons to have access to that food so that she doesn't have any. And also, there's clearly no signs that the daughter's overweight or anything like that. She's probably like a normal young lady who just, I don't know, is living her life. So for this guy to be so strict about what she can and can't eat, like, this is weird. And it's almost like borderline I would call somebody about this, like, I don't know, report him somewhere, whether like a social worker or like, I don't know, the school or doing some kind of wellness check, because this sounds really sketchy, like it really does. Because look at the way he reacted when you said, yeah, I'm giving your daughter food because you're not giving any. He like immediately admits exactly what he doesn't want, but he's already doing. Oh, you're making me look like a bad parent. She eats plenty. But it's like, no, clearly she's not. Clearly she's still hungry and you're doing nothing about it. And you're denying her food when she says that. Like, come on, dude. So no, I think if I was in your shoes and I had them living in my house, I would try to take care of this kid as long as possible. Like, I would give her whatever she wants. If she wants more food, then congratulations, there's a whole pantry with just your name on it. And no, absolutely nobody else is gonna touch it. Because the way the dad's acting seems really awful. Like, I just can't imagine a good excuse for this. And I think it's probably better just to do something about it and endure whatever conflict this causes than to do nothing and for this kid to suffer needlessly. Like, that's unnecessary and that shouldn't be happening. My idiot friend got beaten up by intentionally keying this one guy's car, as the guy was literally still sitting in the car when he did it, and honestly, it was a mess. But now, me and my other friend are being blamed for all of this happening, as my friend's mom is saying that we should have stayed behind and fought with this guy instead of running off in fear like we did earlier. And now, after considering everything, I don't know what to think and I don't know what to do from here. Okay, so back when I was 16 years old, something happened that still sticks to me to this day. Not because of guilt or anything like that, but because of the sheer entitlement of it all. Now, I had a stupid phase for exactly 2 days where I scratched cars with a compass while walking home from school. On the first day, it was just old beat up ones. But on the second day, a high-end car just so happened to be parked on my route home. And I really wanted the thrill of being a vandal. My friend, who I will call Corey, who was 15 at the time, was with me both days watching. But then I stopped doing it because I didn't want to make it a habit. But apparently the seed had already been planted. Like, it was way too late. Days later, my friend Corey and our other friend, who I will call Jay, was walking with us again. And eventually, Corey got excited and decided to scratch a car himself. And holy crap, this was a huge mistake, because literally the driver was still inside. The guy then suddenly burst out of the car. He was this massive, middle-aged man who was full of pure rage. And when we saw this, Jay and I bolted immediately. We were full of adrenaline and fear. Like, I wasn't about to get beaten for something I didn't do. And we assumed that Corey ran too, but he didn't. We came back later to find Corey's mother and an older cousin at the scene. Corey had been slapped around and yelled at, and his face was marked with red welts. There was no blood, but he definitely looked wrecked. The driver had left after the mother argued and said they were going to make a police complaint, even though she never did it. But then she and the cousin turned on us. We were summoned to Corey's house like criminals. Corey sat on the sofa beaten, and instead of focusing on the grown man who had hit her son, his mother lectured us by saying, "You don't run. You fight together. That's not what friends do." Then the cousin piled on, genuinely arguing that we should have stayed and fought the man. This guy was huge, by the way. Like, what were 3 skinny teenagers supposed to do? They looked at us like we were the real villains. And that's the entitlement I'll never forget. They honestly believed that we owed it to Corey to take a beating in solidarity, not to call for help or find an adult. No, to physically fight a raging stranger on his behalf. I sat there silent as they scolded us, but inside I was filled with nothing but contempt. I felt zero pity for Corey, just disgust at 2 grown women who directed their venom at frightened kids instead of, like, I don't know, holding their son accountable. I even swallowed my ego and apologized in that moment because I had no choice, but you know what? It meant nothing. I didn't scratch that car. I didn't force Corey to do it. I was definitely not his personal bodyguard. I literally ran out of fear, and I would do it again. The entitled people in that house weren't the teenagers. They were the adults who thought a 16-year-old should have just let himself get beaten up too. A year after Corey got beaten up, his father struck up the conversation with me out of nowhere. It was casual and like friendly even. He asked what I wanted to do with my life, and I said I hadn't figured it out yet. Then he told me to pay attention to the final dialogue of a specific movie. I eventually found it, and the protagonist in this movie tells the audience that God has thrown everyone in a war zone, that you should have goals and that you need to train extremely hard to reach them, and that those without goals should die as soon as possible because they're useless to others. He never mentioned his son, he never raised his voice, but I had just told him that I had no plans and no direction, and then that line hits me. So I still don't know if it was like a grudge delivered quietly, but I heard it, and I think I was meant to because this really was a terrible situation. Okay, first of all, if I was in that kind of situation, I would also run like crazy. I wouldn't stick around. I'm not gonna fight some adult. I'm gonna get out of there as fast as possible because I don't want to get beat up. Like, dude, that sounds terrible. And sure, I get it. Kids do stupid stuff. And like, I've done some really dumb stuff as a teenager too. And honestly, you learn from it. And it seems like you did, but Corey didn't. So yeah, you may have like scratched cars once or twice, but you didn't do it all the time. You stopped doing it really quickly, but Corey didn't. He wanted to feel the rush of vandalism, but instead he felt the backhand of that guy's hand against his face. Like, seriously, that was a stupid choice. So no, you should not have stayed along and like gotten beat up as well. That's a stupid thing to say. And the fact that anybody's trying to blame you for that is just stupid and just them absolutely avoiding the problem. Did I overreact by breaking up with my boyfriend right there on the spot after I found out that his best friend was secretly a woman the entire time? Because this has been a huge betrayal in my life and I'm seriously not sure what to do next. Okay, to start things off, I recently ended things with my boyfriend of 2 years, and I'm now starting to second guess if I blew things way out of proportion. For the entire time we were together, he constantly talked about hanging out with his best friend. He always referred to this person by a nickname or just as my friend. Whenever they went out for drinks, went on hikes, or hung out at each other's places, he used he/him pronouns or kept the language completely gender neutral. I never pressed him on it because I trusted him completely. Well, I found out the truth yesterday when I ran into him at the mall. I was surprised to see him there and he looked like he was waiting for someone. When he saw me, he tried to act surprised and claimed he was waiting for me, which made no sense because he didn't even know I was planning to go shopping yesterday. But then a woman walked up to him out of nowhere and told him that she was done shopping and that they could go. Now, the worst part about it is that she looked at me, rolled her eyes, and grabbed his hand to pull him away. And when I saw this, my heart just dropped. He was starting to introduce her as the best friend, and I just turned around and walked away. I went home and I spent the night trying to process how the person I thought was perfect could somehow lie to me for 2 years. Well, this morning he came over to my place to talk. I let him in because I needed to hear his explanation, and when I confronted him, he told me that I was being insecure and overthinking the situation. He claims that he only hid her gender because he knew I would react exactly like this, and that they were just friends and nothing more. But my issue isn't that he has a female friend. It's the fact that he went out of his way to hide her existence and her gender for 2 whole years. To me, this is like active deception. Like, if they were just friends, then there's no reason to lie about it. I felt like the foundation of our trust was just permanently broken, so I ended it on the spot. So was I overreacting in this situation? Like, was this really grounds for me to completely break up our relationship? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you. It sounds like your former boyfriend had 2 girlfriends. He had you and the woman he was clearly hiding from you. And also, what kind of statement is that? This guy's sitting there trying to be like, oh yeah, I hid this from you because I knew you would be pissed off. This is how you were gonna react by finding out about my female friend I spent all this time with. You know, the same female friend that's comfortable enough to be like, oh, let's hold hands and I'm gonna pull you away from this woman. Rolling her eyes at you as if like you're the problem. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? The only problem here is this guy who clearly has 2 girlfriends. Like, it's pretty obvious and it's pretty toxic. So no, you're not the jerk. Like, dude, I would have done the same thing. This is not an overreaction at all, and I think you're absolutely in the right. Am I the jerk for embarrassing my roommate? As I revealed to the guy next door that my roommate's been in the bathroom for an hour and a half, as I literally had to go next door just to relieve myself. Because now my roommate is pissed off at me and I really just don't know how to handle this. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live in a student dorm. It's 2 of us in a room with me and my roommate, and for the sake of the story, I'll call my roommate Lisa. And my God, Lisa loves her bathroom. Once she goes inside, she spends a lot of time doing whatever. This happens every day multiple times, and each time ranging from like 30 to 90 minutes. As far as I know, it's because she's usually smoking, which is allowed indoors where I live, or she's watching some reality TV show or doing like the normal basic bathroom stuff. Once she comes out, she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I do this. I'm crazy. And then next time she does it all over again. I stopped asking her to cut this off whatsoever because she just forgets about it or just simply doesn't care. So a couple of days ago, Lisa went to the bathroom and I just had like 3 cups of tea. And of course, at some time, maybe half an hour later, I wanted to go pee. I then thought to myself, well, surely it's maybe one of the quicker times and she'll leave the bathroom soon. But no, another 15 minutes go past and she's still inside. I knock on the door and I ask her, hey, how much time do you really need in there? She then says 15 more minutes. And I say, bro, I'm about to pee myself. Please hurry up. And Lisa just answers back by saying, I'm so sorry. I'll be real quick. Well, another 30 minutes go past and I genuinely feel awful. My stomach hurts badly and I feel like I'm about to pee myself pretty much every time a minute passes by. I then knock on the door again, but she says, oh, 15 more minutes. And that's when I legitimately thought to myself, no, I cannot wait another 15 minutes. Because seriously, I'm like definitely about to wet my pants soon and probably like die of embarrassment right afterwards. My fight or flight mode kicks in and eventually I choose flight. I run out of the room, I knock on our neighbor's door, who is Lisa's classmate and also my friend, and I ask if I can please use the bathroom because Lisa's been in ours for an hour and a half now. He just lets lets out a laugh about it and then lets me in. The next day when Lisa came home from university, she looked super irritated by something. When I asked her what happened, she said nothing. And then 15 minutes later, I asked her again because I couldn't ignore the mad look on her face. She then said to me, "Why would you embarrass me like that with the bathroom thing? Now everyone is laughing at me, asking, well, what are you doing for so long in there?" And honestly, thinking back, maybe I really did mess up. I mean, I could have just not mentioned how long she was in there, but I felt like I should have to explain why I was knocking at someone else's door to go to the bathroom. Regardless though, I was frustrated and I wanted to share my frustration, so maybe that's why it came out like that. I mean, I felt super embarrassed myself because I had to go to another guy's bathroom to pee and my stomach was really hurting. That's why I'm not sure if it was like my mess up or hers or maybe both. So what do you think? Like, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I really just don't know what to do. Dude, your roommate sits in the bathroom for 90 minutes? That's literally an hour and a half. Like, what in the world is she doing in there? Either she has like a medical emergency going on or she's got like, I don't know, nothing else to do with her life. But dude, there's no excuse for that. And here's the thing, like, I totally get it. College dorms have zero privacy. There is no privacy anywhere to be found. So maybe she's going in there to like, I don't know, relax and not be around you, which is not an insult. Maybe she just really does not have any place to like not be around someone. But like, dude, maybe find some spot on campus for that if that's the case. You don't occupy and hog the bathroom just because you're like, oh, I just need my alone time. Also, I really think it might be a possibility that she's doing some kind of illegal substance in the bathroom or something like that, because holy crap, dude, there's no reason for her to spend like an hour and a half in there. You say she's smoking in there, but like, dude, what is she smoking? And I think if I was in your shoes, I probably would have told everybody else exactly what she's doing too, because holy crap, why am I responsible for helping you save face over something that is ridiculous? Seriously, this is ridiculous. There's no reason to be in there that long. So no, you're definitively not the jerk. Your roommate is a jerk for even being in there that long. And I think it's good that she's getting made fun of in this situation, because this is one of those things where she needs to know that, yeah, this is unacceptable and very inappropriate. And maybe this will be the spark for her to hurry up and not spend as much time in the bathroom, because this is annoying and nobody wants this. My entitled boss demands that I fix a plumbing issue at a hotel I was working at. But despite the fact that I am most definitely not a plumber and I don't really know what I'm doing, I decided to maliciously comply, resulting in the worst flood this hotel has probably ever seen, costing them thousands of dollars in the process. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was working in a hotel in the United Kingdom as a lobby boy. My afternoon job was to handle guest requests for extra pillows, blankets, etc. And the system worked like this. The guests informed reception, the details were written in a notebook, and every so often I checked the book, solved the problems, and ticked them off when done. Well, one night during dinner, the hotel boss wrote a note in the book that said the following. It listed off the room number and then it said the hot water tap is not working. Now I went to the room and I checked it, and yeah, it definitely was not working. I then went back and I wrote in the book that I can't fix it and you need to call a plumber. On my next round, there was a new message. It said fix it now, underlined 3 times. Well, I went back to the room, checked the hot water tap again, and as a side note, in the United Kingdom, there are 2 taps on the sink, one for cold and one for hot, and still I couldn't fix it. I tried a few things until somehow the pipe, the one from the wall to the sink, popped right out. And right then, boiling hot water started pouring all over the floor at full force. And it was right about here that I started to panic. I grabbed the phone and I called reception, and guess what? They were busy. So I sprinted through the hotel, I jumped into reception, and I shouted, "We need a plumber right now." Then I rushed back to the room. The water was still gushing out at full force. So I just sat on the edge of the bathtub, holding the pipe so that the water poured into the tub instead of flooding the floor. After about 3 minutes of this, the hotel boss peeked into the bathroom, went pale, and then ran away. 5 more minutes passed, and the fire alarm started going off because of the steam. Fortunately, the staff already knew what was happening, so they told all the guests that it was a false alarm and didn't evacuate the hotel. Another 10 minutes later, they finally shut off the water supply to the entire wing of the hotel, and then a plumber arrived and fixed the tap in 3 minutes. Now this is where the fun part comes in, cleaning this mess up. Surprisingly, there wasn't much water in the bathroom, considering the tap had been gushing for over 15 minutes. So I went 1 floor down to see where all that water had gone. I entered the room's bathroom, switched on the light, but it was really dim. And it's then that I realized the bowl-shaped lamp covered on the bathroom ceiling was filled to the brim with water, with the light bulb happily sitting inside of it. I think to myself, oh my god, and right then I turned the light off. I drained the water from the lamp cover, mopped up that floor too, but still, it didn't seem seem like enough water for what had happened, so I went even lower. Below that bathroom on the ground floor, there was a corridor, luckily not another room, but the ceiling had gotten so wet that it collapsed. In fact, a 2x3 meter section of it had come crashing down onto the carpet. After 15 minutes in a sauna-like bathroom, 30 minutes of cleaning and clearing the rubble, I finally stepped outside for some fresh air. And ever since then, whenever I say I can't fix something, these people actually believe me and call a professional. Because trust me, we don't need that happening a second time. Oh man, this is tragic because seriously, what were these people thinking? Did they really think that you were somehow qualified to fix a plumbing issue? I just love it when managers are so incompetent and they seriously try to sit there and save money by forcing you to do something that you're not qualified to do. Like, that is so obnoxious. I would lose my mind if I was in your shoes. So good for you for at least making an effort to try and fix it, even though you definitely did not know what you were doing. And in my opinion, if it popped out of the wall like that, then it was only a matter of time before that actually happened, regardless of if you actually got involved or not. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that this is not your fault, and the management that you had to deal with are complete morons. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving back my ex-boyfriend a gift that I received from his great-grandmother that celebrated my pregnancy at the time? Because right now, I'm convinced he wants my gift so that he can give it to his new girlfriend. And at this point, I'm incredibly annoyed and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, my ex and I have been broken up for just about 3 years now. For context, we had a child together in our relationship, and we are both currently in new relationships. And his new girlfriend is pregnant with his second child. He's 22 and I'm 23. Recently, I received a message from my ex asking for a stone-carved pregnant elephant that was gifted to me by his great-grandmother 5 years back. His grandmother sadly passed a year back, and he is currently asking for it back. First of all, I asked him why he wanted it back, as it was a gift for me during my pregnancy. A bit more context is that we visited his family, and his grandmother had elephants everywhere in her room. I made a comment about how beautiful her collection was, as some of them were very unique, and when I said that, she lit up and insisted I take one as a welcome to the family present. I tried to politely tell her that I would feel horrible to break up her collection, but she kept insisting. At this point, I didn't want to be rude, and I said okay, and walked around with her as she told me stories of how she got some of the elephants. Anyways, we stumble upon the stone-carved elephant with a carved-out tummy with a baby inside. She heavily implied that my choice should be that specific elephant, as it fits the situation perfectly, especially with me being pregnant at the time. I smiled and accepted, and I thanked her for letting me carry a part of her collection with me. She gave me a hug and accepted me into part of the family. My ex, who I guess got a bit jealous, wanted to pick out an elephant of his own, so he got to do so as well. Now back to current day. He told me due to the passing of his grandmother, he wanted to have the elephant to put with a gift that he got with his great-grandfather so that they could both be together. When I asked him why he specifically wanted mine, he kept dodging the question and said it belonged to his grandmother, and it being gifted from her to me held no value. But I reminded him that he got to choose his own that day, and he dodged that as well, calling me selfish and a lowlife. Part of me is more than willing to give it back to him, but part of me knows that he is going to gift this elephant to his new girlfriend, all because of her new pregnancy. And I say this because I know his narcissistic and manipulative personality. Because why would he ask me now and not a year ago upon her passing? So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm incredibly annoyed. No, you're not the jerk at all, because that's exactly what he's gonna do. The only reason he wants that gift back is because you guys didn't work out and his new girlfriend is pregnant. Like seriously, that's the only reason. So in my opinion, you have no obligation to give this back to this guy because he clearly is just gonna regift it. Today, someone tried to scam me on Facebook Marketplace by trying to make me click a link so that they could pay me money for the item I was selling. But thankfully, I saw right through their scam, as I ended up blocking them after they started cussing me out, demanding that I click the link. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to preface this story by saying that I'm from Canada, and we have something called e-transfer, much like Cash App or Zelle, but this is directly linked to our banks and it's free. Okay, so I'm trying to sell something on Facebook Marketplace, which is honestly not a big deal. I then get a message asking if this item is still available, and I respond yes. The scammer then answers quickly, asking if they can e-transfer me the money and pick it up the week after, as they don't have the time to grab it. And again, that's fine. I send them my email so they can send the money to my bank account, and I will hold the item until they come and grab it. Once they let me know the money is sent, I go and check my bank account, as I have it set to auto deposit, and the moment it's sent, it should be in my bank, but the amount hasn't changed. So I read the message they sent following the one about them transferring the money. They tell me to check my spam folder, as it may have ended up in there. Now for reference, e-transfer emails from actual people will never be in your spam folder. So I open the email and honestly, it just looks off. And alarm bells are ringing because it really should have been auto-deposited. So I messaged the scammer explaining that it should already be in my account, to which they responded, I need to click the link to get the money. I then go back in my email, reverse search the email address, and find evidence that they are straight up a full scammer. With that info, I go back into the conversation and I tell them that the link isn't working and that they can pay cash on arrival. Well, they blew up at me. They were cussing and swearing at me, writing that it's not that hard to click the link. Are you stupid? Just follow the instructions. Well, I promptly reported and blocked them and then proceeded to raise my security on my email and change my password. Because I'm sure if I actually clicked that link, everything in my life probably would have changed in the worst way possible. Wow, this is a really scary situation. You're just trying to sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and this guy's trying to shake you down and be like, oh, just click the link already. It's not that hard. And it's like, buddy, what are you doing? This is so weird. Because you know for a fact the second you click that link, your life is going to come to a screeching halt, as your device is not only going to be completely bugged and probably ruined forever, but also it's just going to be a nightmare getting that fixed. So good for you for knowing exactly how to handle this and for blocking this guy and getting that guy out of your life, because things could have been way different if you actually did end up clicking that link. Today, I messed up by buying coffee for the wrong person, as I was intending to give it to somebody who would let me get into the drive-thru in a timely manner. Here's what happened. So this morning, as I'm headed into work, I pull into Tim Hortons drive-thru for my usual. Now, in this particular stretch to my workplace, there are two Tim Hortons located about two small intersections apart, but the one that I visit all the time is down for maintenance, and so I, as well as many others, were forced to funnel into option B, and the result was a pretty packed house. What makes this Tim Hortons location tricky is that it's positioned at the corner of an already busy intersection, so there are two entrances, and one is by far more convenient than the other. This means people have to learn how to take turns, but the catch is that people don't know how to take turns. So I arrive on the inconvenient side of the aforementioned Tim Hortons lot, and nobody is letting me in. Mind you, I'm pretty well backed off with my signal on, waiting for someone to let me in. But finally, after waiting for several minutes, someone finally flashes me in. Man, what a good person. I think to myself, let me just pay for their order. I get to the window and I pay for both orders and I head off on my way. But as I'm exiting the area, I look back to find a blue Hyundai next in line, and the car that let me in was a black Honda. It's then that I realized they probably let someone else in after me as well. So regardless, enjoy your coffee, random stranger, and I hope you passed on the goodwill to the guy who did us both a solid favor. Oh, I love this story because you actually tried to do a good deed, but instead you did a good deed for somebody else instead of the person you were trying to do it for. Like, I think the intention is all that counts, and most of the time when you do something like that, you really do start like a pay it forward situation where people will like pay for each other's like coffee all the way down the line, and that is really cool in my opinion. So sure, you bought coffee for the wrong person, but I think in the end there is a chance you did a lot of good for a lot of other people, and that in my opinion makes this whole situation very worth it. Am I the jerk for leaving a family gathering and taking the cake with me after my family very clearly hurt my feelings? Because after I tried to announce that I was 1 year sober from alcohol, they literally brushed it over and made me feel very small for even talking about it. And at this point, I'm honestly very offended and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female and I hit 1 year sober from alcohol at the beginning of the year. This was a huge accomplishment for me. It was bigger to me than finishing college. I told my family that the next time we were together for family dinner, I had something to celebrate. And this all happened at my mom's place. The kids were playing and the adults were hanging out. And it was then that I took the moment to share that I had reached 1 year sobriety and how good I felt about it. Well, they all went and said, "Oh, that's what you were talking about? Has it been a year already?" And honestly, I am embarrassed to admit I hope that someone would say that they're proud of me. My brother-in-law, who we will call Steve, looked at my sister and they both said, "Well," at the same time. And she said, "Since we're all here, the niece just got into a specific gymnastics thing. It's been a long road, but she finally did it." Steve then popped some wine that they'd brought and started giving everyone glasses and cups. He made eye contact with me and his face fell. At this point, I had this gnawing feeling, so I got up from the table and I took a walk. I tried to get through the moment mentally so I could be present for my niece to celebrate her success. But when I got back to the house, my sister asked me why I left without saying anything. I said that I needed a minute to myself. She then just looked at me funny and said, "Okay." I said I'd shared something I was very proud of, and she just bulldozed right over it. My mom put her hand up and asked me what my news was, and I said that I told them I hit 1 year sobriety. My mom said my generation always wanted praise for doing the bare minimum, and that this wasn't an accomplishment, but it was just something I needed to do, like graduating high school. Now, I tried to make it through to dinner, but found myself just not in the mood anymore, so I decided to go home. Now here's the direct thing that I'm being called the jerk for. I had brought a small cake, which was one of my favorite flavors, to share after dinner. It was the thing I decided I had earned. The kids had definitely seen it, but on my way out, I decided to take it home with me. I guess when they realized the cake wasn't in the garage fridge anymore, my sister called to ask why I took it. I said I did because it was my cake to celebrate my accomplishment. She then said to me, "Are you kidding me? Oh my God, grow up. You are such a baby." My mom later texted me directly to tell me how disappointed she was that I threw a tantrum because my niece got more attention than me. Now, I don't think that her read of what happened is right, but that is also why I'm asking you guys. So seriously, am I the jerk for taking the cake home with me as I left? Was that really childish of me, considering the kids saw it and then they just didn't get any? As I was putting on my shoes to leave, Steve found me and directly apologized and said that he was completely oblivious in the moment. I know he did not do anything to intentionally hurt me, but I'm honestly still hurt, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, no, you are not the jerk, because my God, these people are so insensitive. Who in their right mind, upon hearing that their family member is sober for a single year, would be like, wow, that's not even that much of an accomplishment. You're just supposed to do that. Your generation's always looking for praise. It's like, dude, what are you talking about right now? The original poster clearly had an addiction that they were trying to beat, and these people literally brushed it off and tried to be like, well, that's not that big of a deal. That's just what you're supposed to do. And it's like, what are you talking about? That is such a big deal. This probably took such a long time to find any kind of footing on this problem. I know plenty of people who are addicted to alcohol who have had their lives ruined because of this, and these people are trying to be like, well, this is just what you're supposed to do. It's not that big of a deal. By the way, look at the niece. She's into gymnastics. Like, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be beyond pissed. I would never want to share anything with my family ever again. Thank God you had Steve at least be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Like, that's the only decent person in this entire family, in my opinion. So are you the jerk for taking the cake with you? My God, of course not. These people don't deserve your cake because you were hoping for some kind of moment with your family where you can at least find some kind of recognition for what you did. And yes, it absolutely deserves recognition. You changed your life for the better. You literally decided, I'm not going to drink anymore and I'm going to be sober. And you fought tooth and nail to get where you're at. So for these people to act like you threw a temper tantrum after you decided, no, I'm not going to deal with this. Like, that's not a tantrum in the slightest. Instead, this is you setting boundaries, and these people can't handle those boundaries. And that is their problem, not yours. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. I'm personally very proud of your accomplishment, and I think what you did is a big deal, even if your family decides to brush it over. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not telling my friend that her boyfriend has been unfaithful? Because after the way they've treated me in the past, I honestly don't feel apologetic, but also I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, long story short, I didn't tell my friend that her ex-boyfriend, who was also my friend, confessed to me 3 months ago that he cheated on her before their breakup. He also admitted to cheating on the person he dated after her with my friend. Now, here's why I didn't tell her. Whenever I shared anything about her ex in the past, she confronted him and mentioned my name as the source, but he would twist things, accuse me of spreading rumors or being crazy, and everything would eventually blow up. On top of that, my friend has always been unreliable. Whenever I need to confirm something, she conveniently just forgets about it. When her ex didn't like me talking to him, whether during their relationship or after the breakup, she would deny things, throwing me under the bus to avoid upsetting him. She was also never a dependable friend. I felt like a toy that she uses for her amusement or convenience. She expects me to be loyal and supportive, but she wouldn't do the same for me ever. 3 months ago, when her ex confessed to cheating, I didn't tell her because I knew how it would play out. She would confront him, use me as the source, and he would twist my words or escalate things further. Worse yet, he had already made statements about filing a harassment complaint against her. From my point of view, she had been incessantly following and stalking him, which likely contributed to his frustration. The day he cheated on the other girl with her was my birthday. I had booked an Airbnb to celebrate, but she arrived late with him, not to celebrate with me, but because she wanted an excuse to be around him and stop him from running away. She didn't spend any time with me. I mean, I was just completely used. And this wasn't an isolated issue. She often asked me to plead her case with him, but as soon as he pushed back, she twisted the facts to make me look like I was meddling. She would throw me under the bus to avoid discrediting herself in front of him. She also frequently called me in distress, whether she was crying, hurting herself, or having a panic attack, and she always begged for me to mediate, find out his whereabouts, or deliver messages because he was avoiding her for whatever reason. Now, I help because I care about her, but if things went wrong, she sided with him and left me to deal with the fallout. Well, a week week ago, I eventually told another friend in our group of 3 exactly what's happening. But that friend couldn't hold it in and confessed everything to her while she was vulnerable. I later asked if my friend thought I should have told her, and she said yes. She also said this wasn't something to discuss over a call. Since then, my friend has been passive-aggressive, but I don't feel apologetic. For 2 years, I've been telling her to dump this guy for countless reasons. He never even called her his girlfriend, which I really found odd. But more than that, the relationship was so toxic. At this point, I'm done being dragged into their mess. So seriously, am I the jerk for the way things went down? Because at this point, I don't know what to do. This is honestly probably the most messiest thing I've seen in a while. Seriously, these friends all suck across the board. People are complaining, they're using you to try and mediate, and then when it doesn't go as planned, they throw you under the bus as if you're at fault. For me, if that happened one time, I would be like, okay, I'm never doing that again. But for some reason, you keep coming back for more. I just don't get it. These don't sound like friends. If anything, it sounds like it's people who are just using you so they can accomplish their goals at your expense. How on earth are you still in the middle of all this drama? Seriously. If I was in your shoes, I would be kicking these people to the curb and finding new friends. These people suck so much, I just don't know why you're around them. They sound very unreliable and, if anything, just a massive basket case. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation because these people do not sound like good friends in the slightest. And if you want to have some kind of peace in your life, in my opinion, I think it would be a good idea to find different people to hang out with. Am I the jerk for not giving my dad the tattoo design that I got with my brother? Because after my dad cheated on my mom, the entire family is now torn apart. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, my older brother and I got matching Star Wars lightsaber tattoos. They are in the same spot, but different colors and handles. They have a lot of meaning to me and his bonding growing up, and we got them back in 2018. Since then, my dad and mom have begun the process to a very messy divorce. Long story short, he cheated again, and as his own children were now all about to graduate high school, he didn't think twice about getting up and leaving to start a new family. A whole lot of drama unfolded, which led to my brother tearing him a new one via phone call and completely cutting contact. My sister and mom moved in with me, and to keep the peace from my mother during this process, I've been answering phone calls and messages from my dad, more out of obligation than desire to have contact. Fast forward to right before Christmas, and my sister and I got trapped into a much too lengthy lunch that we weren't anticipating. After a long and very apparent forced conversation, he asked to see my tattoo. He has asked me to create a matching one for him, just changing the color and the handle so he can get it tattooed as well. And he wants it in the same spot too. At this point, my sister and I made heavy eye contact since her and I thought that it was a little bit crazy. He had said for years that he didn't want to get another tattoo when he was with my mom, so it was a little bit out of nowhere. My sister hasn't gotten this tattoo and wasn't sure she wanted to get it to join the sibling grouping, but definitely doesn't want it if he gets it. I know this doesn't change the meaning or significance of my brother and I having the tattoo, and it's not a big deal to design it either, since all I did for my brother and I's, in terms of sketch for the artist, was just show the handle and the roughs of the watercolor effect that we agreed that we wanted. I did tell my brother, but didn't get much opinion other than a disbelieving chortle. So should I just suck it up and continue to keep the peace and send him the drawings? Because right now, I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, maybe this is just me, but it seems like your dad has literally torn apart the entire family. He was cheating, he got caught cheating, and now he's starting his own family. And it seems like he's only wanting to get this tattoo so that he can be connected to you guys in some kind of weird forced manner. So no, in my opinion, I would not give him the design to the drawings. He quite literally tore this entire family apart. Now they're going through a messy divorce and everything is going up on its end. So if I was in your shoes, regardless of how easy it was to make those designs, there is no way I would ever hand them over, because I don't think he should be able to steal that tattoo design just so he can use it for himself under the false guise that you guys are still considered family. An entitled Psycho Jerk at Disney throws the biggest temper tantrum I've ever seen in my life, as he literally threatens to get everybody fired if he doesn't get his pizza that he ordered right away. Eventually though, this guy ended up getting arrested all while on vacation, resulting in him and his family getting banned from the park. Here's what happened. Okay, so in my 20s, I worked for a very popular theme park in Florida. I worked quick service food at a resort for 1 year, and one day I was placed in my favorite position, the pizza back. Basically, I was responsible for making pizza, baking pretty much everything, and making some breadsticks. The resort guests could call in special pizza orders, and guests could order pizza at the counter as well. Now, don't ask me why, but I rocked at this position. I was very quick and consistent, so I was often placed back there to my delight, as there was air conditioning and a walk-in fridge. Anyone who's done kitchen work knows how most professional kitchens feel as though they're bordering on Hades territory. I'm in the back keeping a steady pace when a tall man with light brown hair and a beer gut starts arguing with my coworker, who we will call Charlie, up front at the pizza front. The man claims he had been waiting for his pizza for over 40 minutes. When a guest orders a pizza, they are given a copy of the order and a wireless pager that will go off when the pizza's ready. Since the pizza is the most expensive item on the menu, and there had been people attempting to claim multiple, it became policy to have the guest pay for the pizza first. Once the pager went off, bring it back with a receipt so we can mark it, and then receive their pizza. The receipt also has a time on it. Well, Charlie asked to see the man's receipt to check the time, and when she does this guy gets angry and starts yelling at her. He screams that he wants his stupid pizza right now. Well, Charlie became flustered and comes back there asking where his pizza was. But I told her that no one waits 40 minutes when I'm back there, and that his pizza would be ready when it's ready. She refused to go back up there because he was so rude. So I went instead. I then asked him politely for his receipt, as it did have a timestamp on it, and my God, the response I received is honestly something that has blown my mind even to this day. I say to him, "Sir, I apologize for the wait. May I see your receipt, please?" This guy responds with vitriol in his voice. He says, "No, why do I need to show my receipt?" I say to him, "Sir, it's our policy to ask every guest for a receipt before they receive their pizza." But this guy is not having it, because this jerk starts screaming, "That is BS. First that woman asked and now you? Are you accusing me of stealing a freaking pizza?" I say to him, "No, sir, it's just our policy." He then says, "F your policy. Give me my stupid pizza." Charlie then calls our small, adorable manager, who we will call Rose, and Rose comes up to the front and politely asks the man what's wrong. This guy then says, "I've waited almost an hour for my pizza, and those two idiots have enough nerve to ask me for a receipt?" Now, at this point, it's important to know that this man has been cursing up a storm. So Rose responds by saying, "Sir, please don't use harsh language towards our workers, and asking for a receipt is policy." This jerk then looks at her smugly and says, "I can use whatever language I want." By this time, it's clear the man is possessed or drunk, so I call another manager. This manager, we'll call him Antonio, comes out and joins Rose to figure out the situation. But this man continues to cuss us out. He says to us, "You guys are idiots. I'm planning on getting all of you fired." He also plans to get Rose and Antonio fired as well. Apparently, we are accusing him of stealing just by asking for a receipt. He cussed more vulgarly and loudly. People around us are covering their children's ears or they're leaving. The staff at the front desk looked dazed, and eventually two guys that were managers of the gift shop ended up calling security. Well, security shows up and they finally take over. The security officer then says, "Sir, are you a guest at this resort?" And this guy freaks out saying, "Yeah, what about it?" Security then said, "Well, we need to verify your identity. Can you show us your ID or room card, please?" And my God, as soon as that security guard says this, all of this starts all over again. The man refuses and cusses the security out. He calls them fake cops and says they can't do anything to him, and that he's going to get them fired as well. At this point, these fake cops, according to this jerk, threaten to call Orange County police if he doesn't comply. But this guy tried to call some kind of bluff as if they wouldn't call, because he says, "Okay, call the Orange County." Well, the security guards did exactly that. They call the Orange County police. Fast forward, and this guy is arrested in the middle of the food court. Once the cops show up, he miraculously calms down and shows his room ID. His wife and 8-year-old son were at the pool, and a worker had to go get her. She was a blonde woman and very pretty. She walked in, looked at him, and walked right back outside. She had an expression that said, "I am done." His face dropped as they walked him out in handcuffs. And due to policy, the whole family had to leave that day with no refund and was banned for life. But worst of all, they had come there specifically for their son's 8th birthday. Wow, this is unbelievable to me. Imagine getting so upset over a pizza that you decide to basically throw the biggest hissy fit on planet Earth. The original poster even went on to clarify that it turns out that this guy had his receipt crumpled up in his pocket and he had only been waiting 10 minutes. This guy tried to make it sound like, "I've been waiting 40 minutes. Where's my pizza?" Like, dude, calm down. It is not worth getting arrested over. And you screaming and freaking out is not going to get anything done. That is not going to make anybody speed up this process or anything like that. So honestly, in my opinion, this guy deserved to get arrested. From the disorderly conduct all the way to him basically saying he's going to get everybody fired. This guy was completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend is furious with me, claiming that one of my former gym instructors at a gym I used to go at is still pursuing me in some kind of way that is not platonic. And despite the fact that I've shown him time and time again that I am not cheating on him, nor would I ever do so, my boyfriend is convinced that something nefarious is happening. And at this point, I honestly honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, my boyfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years. At the end of last summer, we moved in together to an apartment in a different neighborhood of the same city. Because of the move, we both decided to sign up at a new gym that was close to our place. Now, I signed up mainly to attend fitness classes and started going to a few each week with different instructors, and this was all on my own without my boyfriend, and one of those was a cycle class. I was going to this class for a few months until one day my boyfriend started asking me about the male instructor. He wanted to know what he looked like, how he acted, etc., with a sense of jealousy and insecurity, mainly because he had seen the guy teaching a class and was concerned that he had a physique that I was attracted to. Now, I assured him that he was just a normal instructor. I wasn't attracted to him, and he didn't have to worry about anything to do with me being too flirty or the guy acting inappropriately, as he didn't show me any special attention. I invited him to attend the class to see for himself, but he declined. Around this same time, a mutual female friend of ours, who's more close to my boyfriend but I know her through him, decided to join our gym and get back into fitness. I recommended classes to her and invited her to go with me, so we started to go to cycling class together. She liked the instructor's classes and started going to others of his that I didn't attend. Now, due to changes in my work schedule, I stopped going regularly to the cycle class that he taught in the fall and would only pop in once a month. One day, our mutual friend came up to me and my boyfriend and said that she had been asked by this male instructor why I didn't attend as regularly anymore, and said he had asked about me by name. Well, when my boyfriend and I were alone, he asked me about this, as to why this instructor knew my name, and he was legitimately upset, demanding to know every interaction that I had had with this instructor all these months. So I told him yes, he knew my name, as he had asked a few people in the class one day I attended, but I didn't have any personal conversations with him beyond this. Nothing more than the normal pleasantries of saying hello. This then escalated to a fight, and after this fight, I decided to stop going to the cycle class altogether to avoid any more issues. Almost 3 months have passed since I last attended a class with this instructor, and today, a different friend of my boyfriend's ran into him, and after talking a bit, told him that she's now going to the cycle classes with our mutual friend. Further talking, and she says the instructor was asking her and the mutual friend one class if I was going to go to the classes again, and if the reason I wasn't attending was because I had left the city that we live in to be with my family in another city, as I had been planning to travel there since the beginning of January. Well, my boyfriend came home super upset, wanting to know how the instructor knew all these details about my family and my travel plans. Now, I tried explaining to him that I couldn't have shared these details with the instructor, as I haven't been to the class or seen him in months, and that the city he said is actually the city I told this mutual friend that my family is from, not the actual small town they live in. She is the only one I've told this city name when referring to where my family is from, as she is new to the area and unfamiliar with the more rural areas and doesn't know their smaller town. I also told this mutual friend that I was traveling there at the beginning of January. I explained that it's unfair to be mad at me when clearly the mutual friend has been talking with the instructor about me and sharing this information, as she is the only one associated to the instructor who I've told this city name to and when I was traveling. I feel so upset that he sees this as my fault, and I feel that my boyfriend is coming from a place of jealousy that is unwarranted. He thinks I lied to him about how close I am to this instructor, and now says that he can't trust me instead of being mad at our friend. He also insinuated that this instructor is the reason for any other unrelated issue that we've talked about, that any other issue is because of this instructor to cause problems with him. I don't understand his jealousy, and it's really making me question the relationship. He has showed aspects of jealousy before to men that I work with, but never like this. He ended up calming down more and finally said that he wants to be good and that he just has to accept how much I let people in, and said that there's a point that I should have stopped the confidence this guy sees in me. I asked him how I was supposed to do that if stopping going to the classes wasn't enough. Was I supposed to refuse to give him my name when he asked for it? Because again, I didn't tell him the details he's upset over. I only told him my name, and I don't feel that he would have the same reaction if it was a female instructor. So seriously, any advice on how to feel about this situation and what to do is really appreciated, because right now I feel totally blindsided by his reaction. Wow, your boyfriend sounds incredibly insecure and very jealous for all the wrong reasons. First of all, he's complaining about this instructor as if he's trying to steal his girlfriend. But even after you leave that cycling class, your boyfriend still comes at you and says, "Oh wow, how does he know all this information?" Even though you explained that it's the other friend who's talking about you. Like seriously, what's going on right now? You are being faithful and this guy's trying to paint you into something that you're not. This whole situation sounds exhausting, and in my opinion, your boyfriend needs a wake-up call, because you clearly are not doing anything wrong. And if he can't see that, then honestly, that's his problem and not yours. yours. My boyfriend told me that I'm going to be a terrible mother after a small disagreement, and right now I feel completely devastated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I've been with my boyfriend for 9 years, and we've always had a pretty easy relationship, but this morning something happened that has really shaken me, and now I'm wondering if I'm overreacting or if I should confront him. It all started because he has this habit of rushing around in the mornings, asking me to help out with the little things, like making his coffee or packing his lunch, all while he gets ready. Now, I don't mind doing it now and then, but I also work full-time and I need to get ready myself. This morning, we both needed to shower at the same time, so I let him go first. When I needed to brush my teeth, he was still in the bathroom, so I decided to finish making his breakfast and brew him some tea while I waited. When he came out and sat down to eat, he asked me to pack his lunch. At this point, I was already feeling a bit frustrated, so I snapped at him and I said, "Why can't you do it? I still need to get ready." And that's when he got upset and told me, "Stop complaining. I don't need to hear this right now." I tried to explain that I was getting overwhelmed because I had asked him to make a grocery list the day before, and he had not done that. I work longer hours than he does, and I wanted him to help with things like that since he has more free time after work. Well, he completely flipped out, saying I was ruining his morning on purpose and making him late for work. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, he told me, "You're going to be a terrible mother." He actually said I should just suck it up and do things without complaining, especially in the mornings, because apparently it was affecting his day. And that comment hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't expect him to say something like that, and now I can't stop thinking about it. I never meant to ruin his morning. I just wanted to express how I was feeling, but now I'm questioning everything. I feel hurt, and I don't know if I should confront him about it or just let it go. I feel like I'm stuck in this weird place where I'm blaming myself for being upset, but at the same time, I can't ignore how much that comment stung. Should I talk to him about it, or am I just being way too sensitive? What should I do? Oh my gosh, this is such a toxic thing to say. You mean to tell me that your boyfriend, who clearly is working you like a dog and making you do all this stuff for him, suddenly says you're not going to be a good mother, all because he's not willing to pick up any slack that he's literally leaving you? Like, seriously, you have work as well. Like, this guy is so selfish, it honestly is so glaringly obvious. And the fact that he would even say that you're not going to be a good mother, honestly, I think you're probably going to be a great mother, especially if you're dealing with a boyfriend like this guy. This guy sounds like the biggest toddler on planet Earth. And by the way, he's 29 years old, and he's sitting there trying to be like, why can't you just do all this and not complain? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? You're the one asking your girlfriend to pack your lunch for you. You're really not mature enough to set that up the day before like anybody else? Like, seriously, what a giant brat. So yeah, your boyfriend sucks, and no, I don't think you're going to be a terrible mother, because the things he said to you, in my opinion, are wildly inappropriate, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for reporting my friend to our boss after he started bad-mouthing me, as well as ignore my direct orders as a security officer? Because right now he is very upset with me, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old male and I work for a security company, and we have a sector of the company where we give back to the community voluntarily. And it is fair enough because our company pays a very handsome wage. So the training we do can be quite costly, but our company gives it to us for free on the condition that we volunteer at least once a month for 2 years and do a minimum of 21 days sleepaway. And this is for people younger than 26. And then after 2 years, you've paid back your debt. So in our country, you need to get a type of police clearance to operate as a security official, which also costs quite a bit of money. Our company therefore waits for you to finish the training course before helping you apply for the position, as they don't want to lose their money on someone who drops out in the middle of the course and lose out on more money that they would have already lost. The same applies for getting a weapon clearance as well, if you know what I mean. The issue comes in with the bureaucracy. There are extensive background checks done with everything, which can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months, and you run the risk of being rejected due to unclear fingerprints or being short on a signature on one of the forms. Our company really relies on everyone who has the training to help protect. So prior to the police clearance, people are put to work via gray areas and loopholes. Now, one thing about me is that I don't like things not being done. Therefore, I was at the police station the day after I successfully finished the course and submitted the paperwork. And the same applies for when I got the signed paperwork from the weapon shop. Now, I have this friend who joined just before me, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Noel, and he is the complete opposite of me. He hasn't submitted paperwork for anything, and he did the course before me. His attitude towards the company is negative, as the managers can be quite difficult to deal with. So anyways, there is this difficult client who requested security to escort them around for 18 days in another city, which is basically sleepaway volunteering. I got chosen to lead the team, with Noel as my second in command, and a few other guys from the city we were in. Well, something changed in Noel the moment the plane landed. Noel went to my third in command secretly and informed him that the only reason I've been left in charge is due to me being a registered security officer and that I have a weapon. And he said this all just to try and change this person's perspective of me. The client requested we refrain from talking to their employees between certain times, but Noel refused. He fraternized heavily with an employee during those times, and they actually currently are dating. Well, fast forward and we did laundry, and Noel's shirt went missing, and he deemed it necessary to punch a hole in the wall twice. He would also gossip about me behind my back and refuse to follow my orders. Now for context, it is policy that we get issued uniforms, but can only wear it once the police clearance comes through. And my final straw was when I noticed Noel in uniform. I told him to take it off immediately, and he refused by stating, "We're in a different city, so no one will care," disregarding the fact that it's a national law and we have a branch there, so his logic makes no sense. I tried my best to talk to him, but he really didn't want to hear what I had to say. Well, after that, I took notes, and as I got back home, I went to our boss and I shared everything, including some things I haven't noted here, and I put it in a long story sheet, and he could be facing unpaid suspension or getting fired completely. Well, fast forward and Noel got called in. He got questioned on everything. He obviously denied and deflected everything, and then decided to whine about it to one of my friends who we will call Abe. Abe called me up saying that I should apologize, which I truthfully did not want to do, and told me that Noel is very hurt and just wants to understand why I reported him. I then decided to be the bigger person and call Noel and rip the band-aid right off. Noel tried to explain all of his actions, and I told him he can't get himself out of the hole that he dug himself into. I then also turned it on him about how I knew he was gossiping about me. He didn't tell me that one of my best friends, who we will call Carl, was in the room when I called, and they live in the same area. Carl called me the next day just so he could get my side of the story. He then told me that Noel altered his story to paint me in a bad light. My company trusts me over Noel, and they have no reason to ever doubt me and my skills. I could easily go back to them with the update and give info that I decided to redact because Noel is still my friend. All I need to do is mention that Noel is defaming my name in the company to HR, and then request that he does a substance test because I know he's doing stuff that easily could get caught. So truly, am I the jerk in this entire situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, this story is crazy. This guy works as a security officer and he's going around acting like this? Like seriously, this is not okay. This screams like super sketchy, and I would never want someone like that hired to protect me. Like this guy is dating clients and he's literally not taking his job seriously at all, while also disrespecting authority. Like if I was in the original poster shoes, I would not want someone like that as my second in command. Now granted, I don't know anything about this type of like security work or anything like that, so I literally don't know what I'm talking about, but I can only assume that this is not the kind of person you want having your back. He's literally trying to turn people against you, and he's not taking his job seriously. So if things went down in a really bad way, would he really come to your aid and try and save you from something happening? Like I just don't think that's gonna happen. Noel doesn't sound like a good person who's gonna protect the client or his friends. So if I was in your shoes, I would not only report him, but I would also kick him to the curb. There's no way you could ever consider this guy your friend, especially when he's actively trying to like play into your downfall. So truly, I would not allow this guy to be protected by your silence. And in my opinion, I think it's time to step up and report him for the jerk that he truly is. Would I be the jerk if I told my wedding planner friend what her assistant did at my wedding? As I just recently found out that her assistant literally looked up some of the women from my wedding, all so that he could try and find a date. And at this point, I'm honestly blown away and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female and I married my best friend about a month ago. One of my good friends is a wedding planner and I used her company for the coordinating. She was a guest at the wedding, but had 3 other people from her company work with my husband and I, and they were amazing. The whole weekend went perfectly and not a single complaint about the job the company did. One of the assistants was this guy who looked to be about my age, and I didn't give it much thought. This past weekend, I hung out with my friend who we will call Claire, and this is the first time that we are seeing each other since my wedding. And it was then that Claire told me a funny story about my wedding. She said a few days after my wedding, she received an Instagram follow and message from someone she didn't know. Now, the basic rundown of the message was that it was from the assistant coordinator at my wedding. He pretty much said that he was working and couldn't say anything, but he noticed her at the wedding and thought that she was really beautiful and he wanted to ask her on a date. She then asked how he found her, and he proudly said that he noticed her, looked up the seating chart of the table that she was seated at for dinner, and looked up every girl at the table until he found her. She said she wasn't comfortable with that and blocked him. She told me it was funny in hindsight, but at the time she was a little uncomfortable. But at the end of it, Claire did emphasize to me that she didn't think it was a big deal. Now, with all that being said, would I be the jerk if I I told my wedding planner friend about what happened. She will most likely report him to the head of the company, and there is a chance that he might be fired. And I really don't know if I'm being vindictive or not. It just doesn't sit right that we paid a guy to do a job, and he ended up stalking and direct messaging my friend. So seriously, would I be in the wrong for doing this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, no, you would not be the jerk here. If I'm being honest, I think you have an obligation to report this guy. He seriously used the private information he was provided to try and look up some girl he thought was pretty on Instagram. Seriously, that is creepy and that is so wrong. Even if your friend is okay with the interaction and she's like, it's fine, it's not a big deal. It's like, sure, I can respect her opinion, but no, this is a big deal. He literally stalked this woman's profile on Instagram and tried to be like, wow, I really thought you were beautiful at the wedding. By the way, I have your information. You want to go out? It's like, what's going on? That's so weird. And if this guy's willing to do this at your wedding, God knows how many times he's probably done this in the past or done something similar where he's like taken people's information and looked them up. In my opinion, this is not something that needs to be swept under the rug. If anything, it seems like Claire just doesn't want to like rock the boat, but if I was in your shoes, I would be rocking the boat until this jerk's out of it, because what that guy did was incredibly creepy, and his company, regardless of how anybody might feel about it, absolutely deserves to know what happened. An entitled Disney Karen goes red with rage when I deny her early access into an amusement park ride. And even though this Karen tried literally every trick in the book to try and get past me, I decided right then and there to get some petty revenge by ensuring that even though I was going on break, this entitled Karen would have to wait her turn. And I've honestly never been happier to watch anyone get so angry in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I wanted to share another experience from my time as a worker at a very popular theme park in Florida. Now, for a bit of context, I worked at an attraction. One day, I was the fast pass line greeter, and it was the middle of peak season. We were ridiculously crowded, with wait times for standby being 2 hours, single rider about 50 minutes, and fast pass over an hour. Now, we were instructed to allow people in on the time stamped on their fast pass just to help thin out the line. And sometimes when it was busy, we would allow people to enter 5 minutes earlier than their ride reservation said. Well, a woman wearing white shorts, a fanny pack, and a white sun visor came walking up happily with her group and showed me her fast pass. But unfortunately, I stopped her because it was 10 minutes early. I then politely explained that she would have to wait to enter on the time stamped on the fast pass ticket. And it's right about this moment that this entitled Karen of the story starts to really lose her patience. She looks at me and says, "Oh, come on, really? It's just a few minutes early." I say to her, "I apologize, ma'am. Unfortunately, we are very busy, so you will have to wait for the time on your fast pass." The woman then says, "That's ridiculous. Everyone else let us in a few minutes early." This entitled Karen then tries to walk past me, but it is not happening. I block her by stepping in her way, and I smile and I ask her to step to the side. And when I do this, this entitled Karen lets out a huge sigh. I continue to let people in according to the times on their passes, as this Karen glares angry daggers at me. A man next to her tells her to just wait, it's not that serious, but she is absolutely fuming. Literally 3 minutes go by, and she storms back up and shoves the pass in my face. "Good enough for you now? Can I go in?" Now me, trying to remain magical, I say to her, "Ma'am, you still have 7 minutes until you can enter. Please step to the side." This Karen then starts to pop off at me. She says to me, "You're joking, 7 minutes. You're not seriously going to make me wait for 7 minutes." But I respond calmly by saying, "Yes, please step to the side." Another 2 minutes go by as a line of people come in. I check everyone's time, not looking at faces so much, but hands and tickets. And guess what? That's when I see the same ticket. I then look up and it's the same entitled Karen. She still had 5 minutes to wait. So now I'm irritated and she's irritated. I just stare at her for a few seconds quietly before doing a 2-finger point back to the side where her group and others were waiting patiently. She then stormed off right as my coworker, who we will call Kelly, walked up with my brake slip. This Karen then instantly got a grin on her face when she saw I was about to leave. And you know what? Her grin really pissed me off, and it was then that my petty box immediately switched on. I gave Kelly a brief version of events and instructed them to make sure that she waited until the exact time printed on the freaking fast pass ticket. Kelly laughed a bit and said, "Okay," and I walked away, but only a few feet, when she sauntered over arrogantly grinning to Kelly and showed them the ticket. Kelly then said, "Sorry, but you'll have to wait until the time printed on the fast pass, ma'am." And at this point, this entitled Karen's face was turning red with anger. She then screeched out, "Did she tell you to do that?" And Kelly just responded by saying, "Well, I have to work with her." And even though I was standing just a few feet away, and sure, it was probably petty, I feel that this Karen absolutely deserved it. Yeah, I can't stand when you deal with people at amusement parks that act like they're some kind of MVP. Seriously, these people are not special. You have a fast pass just like everybody else. Get in line and wait. Like seriously, let's think about it for a second. We're talking 10-minute wait. That is not that long. She could have stood there and talked with her family instead of acting like an entitled psychopath. Like, come on, that is so weird in my opinion. And I just love the fact that she tried multiple times. She came up to you so many different times and then tried to get back in line as if she was some kind of like anonymous customer. And it's like, dude, you're so weird. Just wait your turn. It's not that hard. Because I know if I was in the original poster shoes, if someone really wanted to fight me hard on this, then I would absolutely be like, yeah, I don't really care. You're gonna have to wait until the time printed. Because at that point, this is just obnoxious and this lady needs to chill out. You're not going to the hospital, you're going to an amusement park ride. Calm down and wait your turn. So personally, I love this petty revenge because you got this Karen exactly where it hurts. And clearly, that's her inability to be patient and wait her turn. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for declining to invite a woman to my house who has called herself a total kleptomaniac? Because right now, I fear that I've torn my friendship group apart, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I joined a women's social club 6 months ago because I've been struggling to make friends after relocating to a city that's new to me. It took me a while to warm up to the group and to connect with people I actually had anything in common with. I had to wait through a lot of Botox parties and boozy brunches just to find things that I was interested in. But I did, and I started coming to group events fairly often. I hang out most with the women who like to read, do crafty things, bake, skywatch, etc. And among these women is one that I will call Andrea for the sake of the story. And she's someone who has made several comments about how she is a total kleptomaniac. And I think she makes these comments to seem cool to the other people in the group. I reached out to some of the women I see regularly at these events and invited them over to my place to watch a TV show that we'd been talking about and to do some other crafty stuff. Well, they were excited and they agreed to come. Unfortunately, Andrea found out, as I assumed someone asked if she was going, and reached out to me to ask if she was invited. I considered this for a bit and then I told her no, as I only had so much room at home. She didn't believe me and asked me for the real reason, saying that I thought we got along, which yes, is true. I then told her that I'm not comfortable inviting a kleptomaniac into my house, that I've worked hard for the things that I have, and it would be stupid for me to invite her knowing that she openly brags about it. She then says okay very quietly, but then she says, "You're painting me out to be some kind of horrible criminal when you don't even know anything about me." But I said that her being proud to call herself a klepto was all I needed to know. She then said that I was a high school mean girl and that I was ableist, and I'm really not sure what the foundation is for that statement. Well, this unfortunately has spilled over to the group, which is really frustrating. But what has me the most surprised is that there are so many people defending her and telling me that I'm out of touch and take things too literally. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because if someone's actually gonna be like, oh yeah, I just love to steal, I'm just such a kleptomaniac, I don't know what to do about myself. Like if someone's really saying that and they're outside of the age of like high school range, then I don't know about you, but I'm probably going to believe them and not want them around my personal belongings. Who in their right mind would openly say, yeah, I just love to steal, it's great, I have an addiction to stealing, isn't that fun? Like that's not something you brag about. That's something you keep to yourself and you don't share with anybody. Why would you want people to be afraid of like having their personal belongings around you? Like for me, I completely understand why the original poster's like, nah, I'm not inviting that lady. I don't want my stuff stolen because that lady is a kleptomaniac. She even said it. And even if she was joking, maybe she should pair that comment up with, oh, I'm just kidding, I'm being weird, or something like that to try and like diffuse the situation. Because seriously, this is not a good way to make friends at all. So no, I don't think the original poster is a jerk at all. I think they made a good decision by being like, nah, I'm not gonna invite that lady, because the way she's acting and the way she would self-admit that she's a kleptomaniac, that in my opinion is incredibly weird. My friend's soon-to-be ex-husband is an absolute nightmare towards her, as he's literally bugging the house and her car in some kind of weird attempt to monitor her every move, all before they get divorced. And I honestly hope that my friend gets out of that marriage sooner than later. Here's what happened. Okay, I have this friend who we will call Lisa, who's in her 50s, she's been married forever, and has spent way too much of that time putting up with her nightmare of a husband. Lisa had thought about divorcing him more times than she can count, but she always hesitated because she knew he would turn the process into a living nightmare. Well, 2 months ago, Lisa finally snapped. She decided it was time to break free and filed for divorce. This is when her husband, who we will call Todd the Terrible, immediately started proving her right by going full-on paranoid spy mode. First of all, he installed surveillance cameras all over their house, which unfortunately is technically legal in our country as long as he's living there as well. But Lisa's pretty sure he also also planted some illegal listening devices because get this, that's the exact advice he gave his brother during his own divorce. As if that wasn't creepy enough, Todd took her car for 2 days because apparently it's the family car, even though he never uses the family car and he's got his own car. And this is all right after she handed him the divorce papers. And that would be plenty of time to slap on a GPS tracker or a few bugs, right? Now, what was his excuse for all this James Bond level nonsense? He claims that Lisa is cheating. And not to spoil the situation, but no, of course she's not. But here is the real kicker. In my country, divorce means splitting everything 50-50 regardless. That is, unless something truly extreme comes up. So even if Lisa were sneaking off to rendezvous with the entire team of the Kansas City Chiefs, it wouldn't change a thing. Todd's tantrum is entirely pointless. Now, Lisa doesn't have the time or money to check her car for gadgets, and the whole situation is understandably frustrating. So I suggested the perfect petty revenge, turning his creepy surveillance obsession against him. And now, when she's in the car, she regularly puts on a show loudly announcing gems like, "You are so small where it counts, it's microscopic," if you know what I mean. Also, "You're the worst lover I've ever had, and I've had way better than you. And I feel so sorry for your future dates. They'll need a search party to find any satisfaction." She says she's tried it a few times now, and apparently she says this is more satisfying than any therapy she could ever sign up for. Wow, good for Lisa to get away from this weirdo. This guy literally set up surveillance cameras in the house simply because Lisa says, "Okay, I'm getting a divorce and I'm not dealing with this." And sure, a 50-50 split in some cases can be a really sketchy situation where people are not getting exactly what they want and people walk away unhappy, but in this scenario, I think Todd deserves it. From the sound of it, and at least from what the original poster described, Todd sounds like a horrible husband, and he's apparently been mistreating Lisa for far too long. So good for her for not only getting back by screaming these things in her clearly bugged car, but also for getting out of a marriage that clearly was not good for her. And hopefully things can work out better in the future. Am I the jerk for going into the vet when I was supposed to go in? Literally all because I was the next one in line. Because as a result, some people who were first but not in line complained that I was cutting in front of them. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what happened. Okay, so this morning, my mom and I took her 2 cats to the vet. And the vet that we use is a walk-in only business. You cannot make appointments except for surgeries. We have been using this vet for several years, and I've been there recently with my own cat. When we got there 40 minutes before it opened, there was no physical line, but several people sitting in their cars. And this is not unusual. What has happened literally every other time I've been there is that people wait in their cars until one person gets in line, and then everyone usually zooms to get their spot. Then we all wait until the place opens up. So we're all waiting in our cars for about 20 minutes before someone got out of their car and got in line. Well, seeing that, I followed suit, leaving my mom and the animals in the car, making me the second one in line. After another 5 minutes, some of the other people, maybe about 3 people, got out of their cars and said very loudly, "Well, we should be going with who actually arrived first," and then proceeded to label where they thought everyone should be, with me getting 5th. I didn't say anything because that sounded like nonsense to me, and so they just kind of all stood off to the side and waited. Meanwhile, more people began to show up and get in line behind me and the first person. The group also didn't say anything to them and just talked amongst themselves. Now, when the door opened, they take 3 people at a time, so the lady in the line in front of me went in, a lady from the big group, and then I was going in as well. As I tried to walk in, one of the people in the group went, "Excuse me, I was here before you." But I stated that I was in line before her and I was going in. Well, she got angry, but I went in anyways. As I was trying to check in, the woman from the group that had made it inside tried to tell the employees that I had cut in front of someone, but I once again stated that I had been in line before her. The employees told us that everyone would be seen and it would be fine. Now, I feel a little bit guilty, but my logic was that I could have slept in my car in the parking lot, but if I didn't get in line, then that would have meant that I would get cut ahead of everyone. That isn't how the system works. I have arrived first on previous visits, but not made it to be the first one in line. No one has ever pitched a fit about line versus arrival order before either. So seriously, am I the jerk for going ahead of this group that was clearly waiting in their cars despite me being first in line? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, I might be the only person that thinks this, but guess what? The only person that really is the jerk here is the vet of this story. In my opinion, if you're standing in line, then guess what? You are first in line. None of this waiting in your car garbage. No, you've got to be in line waiting like everybody else, because this stupid vet doesn't make appointments. Like, think about that for a second. They only have a walk-in system that honestly is so dumb. But these people trying to stand off in this like subgroup and be like, "No, you were actually 5th in line. We were before you." Like, that for me does not stand for a second, because I would be like, okay, that's cute, but guess who's physically in line in front of the door first? That's me and this other lady. So sorry sorry, but you're not going to dictate whether or not I go in. So no, you didn't do anything wrong by standing up for yourself and going in, because this side group, in my opinion, easily could have shuffled in behind you and gotten in line like everybody else. But instead, they decided to be entitled in a way that is completely unfair. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my mother after she lost my money that I specifically hid from her? Because right now, she's blaming this entire incident on me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old male, and I had recently gotten $100 from a family member overseas on my dad's side of the family, and when I came back from my trip, I decided to hide my money from my mother. For context, in the past when I've gotten money, she's found every excuse to take it from me. For example, do I have a stain on some new pants? Well, that's gonna be $40. Did I forget to make dinner? Well, that's another $15. Normally, for people my age, $100 isn't that big of a deal, but I come from a strict immigrant household where I'm not allowed to get a job and I never receive money besides on holidays or birthdays. Considering this, I hid my money in an envelope under my desk. I had to hide it well, considering how much my mother tends to snoop in my room. Days go by and I end up spending about $20 on food. I had plans to spend more until I came back from school one day to find out that my mom had done another spontaneous cleanup. And by this, I mean that she dug through all my things, making a huge mess, then leaving it there for me to pick it up. And surprise, surprise, my money wasn't there. When I asked my mom about it, she told me that she had thrown out almost everything from the bottom drawer, which is true because everything from that drawer was gone, including my money. However, I'm not sure if I should believe that, considering that my mom often hides my things, and she lies about throwing them out. I tried to remain calm as I asked my mom if she might have done anything else with it. In response to this, she began to get defensive and claimed that it was my fault for not telling her where I hid my money. Now to this, we both began to get more upset. Keep in mind, she had begun to blame me, she refused to apologize, and began to go on a rant about how I need to be more responsible. She insulted my intelligence, and then when asked if she'd pay me back, she literally refused. Now here's where I might be the jerk. We both began to argue as I then started to berate her with insults, and she did the same. Eventually, my mom began to look more and more defeated as I continued to rant about her. I honestly felt like I was at my breaking point. When I was done, my mom then gave me the silent treatment for the next 2 hours, even though she seemed okay in the morning. And yes, I did apologize, but I still feel guilty. She even keeps bringing it up, which makes me question if I was the jerk. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, this really pisses me off because honestly, your mom stole your money. In my opinion, she used this excuse of cleaning up to raid your drawer, find the cash, and throw everything else out. And that sucks because that really is what happened, especially based on what you're describing with her history of basically like stealing your stuff. And here's the thing, that money isn't lost. Your mother lost it, so she owes you that money back. And the fact that she's not willing to pay you back is mind-blowing to me. That really is so insensitive, it's not even funny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. You are not at fault for your mom losing your money, and in my opinion, completely stealing it right from underneath your nose. Because she clearly had an agenda, and unfortunately, it does look like she's probably going to get away with it. My boyfriend is riding home with a woman who is in love with him, on top of them driving in an ice storm. And with all things considered, this really is a stressful moment in my life, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I don't want to crash out, but I'm honestly debating. I met my boyfriend, who we will call Ben, at his job a year ago. We began flirting at the bar, and I could hear a woman shouting his name from the kitchen. He ignored it for a while, and then the person calling him, his coworker, who we will call Tammy, tried to physically pull him away from me, but he asked her what she was doing and brushed her off. She sulked away, and I asked if they were dating, and he said absolutely not. I later learned that they previously had a fling, but he decided to just be friends because he didn't see a future with her, as she is extremely loud, has a problem overindulging in food and substances, and often does inappropriate things without thinking. She apparently did not take this well, told him that she wants to get married, and tried on multiple occasions to get drunk and stay the night with him, only for his friends to drop her home or for him to straight up ignore her because he had already told her countless times that for him, she is way too much. Well, a short time later, I ended up working at the same job as them. Though loud and a little obnoxious, I found her to be sweet at heart, and even ended up planning a girls' day and hanging out with her a few months in. I mean, she had never tried to get with him while he was dating me, and she seemed to be over it, right? Well, everything was fine until I put in my 2 weeks notice, and she started acting differently. She started telling me that she missed cuddling and watching movies, but then would add that she wants to cuddle me and not him, and other things that were clearly attempts to see if he would go along with it. The final straw was when it was just the two of us, and she said that that she was going to miss me because now she won't see me anymore. And I said to her, "Oh, Tammy, don't say that. I'll still be around the bar. You'll see me. It's not like Ben and I are gonna break up or anything like that. If anything, you'll probably see more of me than usual, as we're moving in together and we eventually want to get married. I've never been so happy." Well, what was Tammy's response to this? For the first time since the very first day I met her, Tammy was silent. She was silent for 10 minutes. No congratulations, no, "Oh, I'm happy for you," just utter silence. I mean, you could cut the air like a cake. Tammy was not over Ben. On the contrary, she was celebrating him spending work time with her and not me, so I distanced myself immediately. Well, we are currently dealing with a snowstorm in an area that doesn't ever get snow. The area was not prepared. I mean, this is a beach for goodness sake. The roads are icy and they're not salted, and I can't drive on it in my car at all. Plus, my boyfriend's elderly father has been taking him to work in his truck. Well, I just received a message from Ben that he doesn't want his dad driving on the ice in the dark, which is fair, but he also stated that Tammy has offered him a ride home, and I'm completely okay with that as I can't get him, and this time is just odd. I told him it's fine, and then he tells me he plans to do something that I find absolutely rude, and this is where I get angry. On the way home from his job, there are 3 separate grocery stores and a McDonald's. If he's hungry, there are plenty of places to stop. However, if you drive up further away from the house, there is a Sonic, meaning that if he were to get Sonic, he would have to go the opposite way on the ice, go through the twice as icy median, and then cross the highway with oncoming traffic to get the food. And with that in mind, take a guess as to where he told me he's going, because if you guess Sonic, then you would be correct. He offered to get me some, but I declined. It's just not sitting right with my soul. Between this making things even more dangerous and him just going along with not coming straight home, I don't know what to be more mad about. I feel like there's a boundary that under these specific circumstances, he has been allowed to cross, but now he seems to be dancing on this line, and I'm honestly not okay with it, because right now I'm seriously distressed and I don't know what to do. Yeah, I can see why you would be upset. It does seem like this is a sketchy situation, especially when he's riding with someone who has the hots for him. Like, that already sounds like a lot of stress, and I don't blame you for being so upset about this. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be talking to him about all of this. I would say to him, "Look, I didn't like what you did last night, and that really was upsetting. And hopefully with some good communication, all of this can eventually get worked out." A group of entitled Karens tried to mock and shame our server, all because this server had a nose ring that she purposefully covered up. But after listening to these Karens literally mock this woman and say that she has no chance of getting a job anywhere else, my friends and a table next to us decided that enough was enough, as we all collectively put these Karens in their place in a way that not only humiliated them, but also shut them down in a way that they will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so I went to brunch at a popular packed spot with tables very close together, and our server had a tiny flesh-colored patch on the side edge of her nose, covering up a nose ring. And this had to have been an extremely tiny ring because the patch was very small. Well, one table next to us had several young men that were friendly and asked us about the mimosa flight we ordered, and they were tourists from Germany. But unfortunately, the other table next to us was a bunch of old entitled Karens. So eventually, as time would tell, the server went to the Karens to get their drink order, and it was then that everybody nearby heard one of them squawk out and say, "What's that thing on your nose?" Now, I didn't hear the server's response, but as she walked away from the table, both of these stupid Karens started loudly discussing the kids these days and what a choice the server made to ruin her face. They were gleefully discussing how stupid it is, while also saying, "No wonder she's a waitress," since according to them, she wouldn't be able to get a better job with stuff in her face. The server brought their monster glasses of wine, and the ladies continue with their tirade about the younger generations and how they don't think about their consequences. Well, at this point, one of the German guys leaned close to them and loudly asked these Karens, "Why do you speak to your server in such a mean way? She is working to bring you your wine and food." Well, as this entitled Karen started to sputter with a shocked expression, all the guys started rapidly speaking in German and were clearly laughing and speaking about these stupid entitled Karens. My family all started laughing and giggling in solidarity, and these Karens got quiet, clearly shocked, and then they went back to their wine. The second Karen of this group changed the subject to gardening in the spring, and we made it a point to loudly thank and praise our server every time that she came around to serve us. Wow, I can't stand people who act like this because seriously, there is nothing wrong with being a server. If you're making an honest living, it doesn't matter where you're working, in my opinion. A job is a job, and honestly, you can get a job anywhere that you want. And just because somebody has like a nose ring or a tattoo or something like that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that they're not highly skilled individuals. Her having a nose ring or not doesn't mean that she can't do her job, and it also doesn't mean that she can't get a job somewhere else. Like, these Karens don't know that lady's life. They don't know anything about her. So the fact that they're trying to be like, wow, kids these days, no wonder she's a waitress. Yeah, she might be a waitress as like a side gig, or she could be loaded and she's working as a waitress just for the fun of it. Like there's any number of reasons why she's working in that profession. So yes, I'm so glad that these Karens got put in their place because this is so unacceptable. And as someone who's worked in the restaurant business, this really hits home for me because people in customer service, especially food service, deal with so much garbage it's not even funny, making comments like these unbelievably disgusting and something that no one should ever put up with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled sister does nothing around the house, claiming that she's too tired from her job, which by the way is not nearly as hard as mine. And I honestly feel like I'm at my breaking point because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female and I live with my older sister who's 27. We live in the house that used to belong to our parents before one of them passed away and the other one moved in with a new partner. Since my sister was already planning to move in with her girlfriend and I was old enough, they ended up leaving the house to my sister and her girlfriend. Now, I won't go into the abandonment issues and the mess this caused, but believe me, it was a lot of bad stuff. Last year, she and her girlfriend broke up and things got tighter at home. I started working and became 100% responsible for paying for groceries and some bills like water and the internet. An important detail is that I worked as an in-office administrative assistant during peak hours, while my sister has always worked from home, doing Instagram posts for stores and other stuff like that. You know, the kind of story ads with promotions and stuff like that. One thing she always does is act as if her job is extremely exhausting. Now, I'm not saying it's not, but I would get on packed buses after a full day of work, come home, wash dishes without complaining, and make food, while she, who stayed home all day, would complain about putting water in the dishes that she dirtied. As a side note, I know these jobs can be tiring and fast-paced, but absolutely nothing will convince me that you can't spend a few seconds to put water in the frying pan. Now, I'm currently unemployed and I'm looking for a job, but unlike other days, I woke up wanting to clean and organize the house. I hung up the clothing that she asked me to, I took out the trash, I pulled some weeds in the backyard, and I washed the dishes 3 times. I even had to rush to take the clothing off the line when it started raining. Well, what did she do? She put the clothing in the washing machine and turned it on. On top of that, she left glass shards on the bathroom floor, which I almost stepped on by the way, and then told me to pick them up. But when I complained, she said she was too busy to pick up glass. She also complained about old food in the fridge, saying, I can't take care of your responsibilities because I work too much. Now, as another side note, at the time, I was hanging up wet clothing from the rain, which should have been 100% her responsibility, and washing dishes, which were supposed to be mine. But in her head, I should always help her when she needs it, and I should never ask for help with my responsibilities. Mind you, all the food that she worked to remove from the fridge were meals that she cooked, stored, and didn't eat. But in her head, I'm the one responsible for throwing them away. So anyways, here I am, taking a break and looking at memes, and job hunting online when she barges into my room to complain about a dish that wasn't properly washed. She tiredly explained how I should have done the task using water and soap, and said that she couldn't put her mashed potatoes in there because it was greasy. Then I go into the kitchen and this idiot left the dish dry without a single drop of water or soap. So yes, this truly was a venting diary, but honestly, I really just cannot stand my sister, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Man, I cannot stand when you have roommates or siblings who act this way. Seriously, what's the point of having a chore list or some kind of like responsibility listing if you're the only one actually doing your job, or even like picking up the slack where you're supposed to do it? Like, that is so frustrating, and I totally understand where you're coming from. So yes, in my opinion, your sister is incredibly obnoxious and very entitled, and the fact that she thinks this is somehow your problem is proof enough that she's only passing the blame to you when that blame absolutely belongs to her. My parents are incredibly controlling, as they literally want me to never move away despite me being offered a job out of state that would change my life in a very positive way. Because right now I'm doubting my decisions and I'm second guessing literally everything about my life. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things off, I'm 35 years old and I got fired from my last job right before the holidays with zero explanation. 2 weeks later, I got an offer in Denver for $83,000, which is $23,000 more than my last job, but my parents are really discouraging me. They're saying things like, it's too expensive. $83,000 isn't that much. Not enough to live anywhere else but here. It's too cold. What are you gonna do with your house? Because if you sell, you'll never be able to afford another home. If you rent it out and the job doesn't work, you won't have a place to go back to. And whoever rents it will probably destroy your property. I mean, where are you gonna put your stuff if you rent it out? Basically, they want me to turn this opportunity down, which means staying on unemployment until something else comes up or that crap runs out, resulting in me staying put and looking for local jobs in Kansas. My dad sent me a job posting for an administrative assistant at a local university for literally $15,000 less than what I was making at my last job. I've been a project manager for 7 years, an admin assistant job photocopying some old dude's documents, arranging his folders, scheduling his meetings, and it honestly sounds like a huge step back for me. That is a job I would hate and I'm overqualified for. But he shouted at me that I was stupid for not applying for it. Meanwhile, my sister is turning 38 years old and has never moved out of my parents' house and doesn't drive herself anywhere. Literally, mom drives her to and from work every single day, which they have no problem with. Why are they not questioning what she's doing with her life? And it's like they're so hands-off when it comes to her life choices. What's crazier is their talk is making me second guess my new gig. I turned down a job in Boston 2 years ago because of this type of pressure, and now look what happened to me. I took a pay cut and then I got fired, and now I'm thinking about doing it again. There is no support for me whatsoever. They say I'm gonna fail and not have anything to come back to, and I am seriously torn up about their behavior and they're doubting me. Their words have made me feel awful about everything, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I am so sorry you're dealing with that. Family pressure like this, and yes, I have definitely experienced this, can be some of the worst pressure ever. These are the people that know you the most. They know what insecurities to play into, and it all just leads to this entire situation being very sketchy. So if I was in your shoes, I would take that job and never look back, because you made that mistake once in Boston, and it doesn't sound like you want to do that again. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way, because the way your family's pressuring you to stick around is super toxic, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not giving the dollhouse that I built for my wife over to my niece, as I had every intention for my wife to enjoy this, as this is something I worked really hard on? Because right now, my brother and his daughter are really treating me and my wife like garbage over this situation, and at this point, I do not know if I'm the one at fault or not. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I made my wife a replica of a house that's known to fans of a musician, but wouldn't mean much to others. It's about 2 feet tall, and it wasn't very complicated to build, but my wife has said a few times over last year that she thought it would be cool to have for little trinkets. She's like a crow with her trinkets, and I love it. She didn't know that I was making this for her, but I did sneakily involve her in its creation through having her make a couple of TikToks when we were out together so I could get the colors right, and she had no idea. Now, I was excited, so I showed a picture to my brother, and he told me it was cool, but didn't get the purpose. He showed it to my niece, who we will call Ava, who's 13 years old, who knew what it was and said that she wanted one too. So my brother then asked if I would give it to Ava for her birthday, but I said no, as it was for my wife. But I then said I could help make one with Ava, as it would help teach her some basic woodworking skills, which they don't really do in schools anymore, and I would really like that. My brother then said if it was so easy, then I could make a second one for my wife and just give this one to Ava, since her birthday was at the end of the month. But again, I said no. This was done specifically for my wife. He seemed to accept that, but then came back to me and said, "Isn't it a little weird to make a dollhouse for an adult woman?" I then told him it's not a dollhouse, it's just a fancy shelf. But he argued that makes it worse, because Ava would actually play with it. He must have gone to complain to mom about it, as he is the younger brother, because mom called me to tell me that it was stupid to give my wife a dollhouse. But again, I tried to explain that it's not a dollhouse, but she kept saying that's just so stupid. This weekend I was at their house, and Ava kept bringing up the replica house and laying it on thick with statements like, "I've always wanted one just like it." And she kept asking my wife why she wanted a dollhouse. And I said once again, it's not a dollhouse, but she kept asking why she needed one. I then told my brother that he was encouraging his kid to be manipulative, and I really didn't like it, so I was going to leave. He told me that I was dangling the house over her head like McDonald's and teasing her about it, and that it made me a bad uncle. Now, being a good uncle is important to me, and I do feel for the girl because she's a big fan too. I admit I have a blind spot for this because I don't have kids, and maybe I shouldn't have shared the picture with my brother to begin with. So am I really the jerk for not giving it to her? Yes, it was easy to make, and I could make another one quickly, but still, this one was for my wife and not for my niece. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. Ava and your brother sound incredibly entitled, with your mom absolutely taking a back seat to this idiot train. Seriously, you hit the nail on the head. These people are laying it on thick for literally no reason, and they're playing literally every angle possible. They're not only trying to be like, "Oh, please give it to me, I've wanted it my entire life," but also they're trying to guilt trip you for even giving a dollhouse to your wife, stating, "Oh, I would actually get some use out of it, and she's just an adult playing with a dollhouse. What's going on? As if them shaming you is somehow gonna make you hand it over. But then for me, the fact that this kid goes up to your wife and tries to like start bothering her about it, like that's the hard line in the sand that absolutely is not okay. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You were just trying to show off something that you thought was really cool. And the fact that these people try to turn this against you and make you the bad guy for trying to make something for your wife, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic. Am I the jerk for getting upset with my pregnant sister after she implied that my husband and I are not doing enough to help out with her baby shower? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my younger sister is pregnant with her first child. The family is thrilled for her as she and her partner have been trying for a long time to get pregnant. When she announced it, she mentioned that she was having a baby shower and my sister and I offered to help out where we can. Now, for some reason, she took this as, oh, my brother said he's going to pay for the baby shower, and then decided to draft a guest list for over 120 people. I decided to text her one day and ask her what her budget was, and I heard nothing for at least a day. And it was then that my other sister and mom had mentioned that I had said to her that I would pay for the whole thing, but that was never something I ever offered to do. She never addressed it with me directly and said that she and her partner would pay for everything. I took charge of creating the invite, registration site, driving an hour away to book the hall, and put a deposit down. I offered to do the centerpieces, pay for the stroller, driving back to the hall to add extra time to the reservation because their archaic system doesn't allow people to book online, agree to pick up food on the day of, and answer every inquiry from any guest who registered in the system. My husband even offered to help out with the games for the shower. We saw my sister last week, and she texted me on Monday saying to me, if he doesn't want to do the games, then tell me so I can give it to someone else. Well, at this point, I finally messaged back, and I said that I thought her message was a little harsh, and if she was trying to imply something, then she should just say it out loud. She then responded by saying, fine, I'm disappointed by how much work you've put into this shower. And it's right at that moment that I lost it. I was objective and I listed everything that I had contributed so far. I also pointed out that I had never agreed to pay for a baby shower with 120 guests. I don't know much about them, but I assumed they were intimate events in someone's home and not something the size of a wedding. I mean, I had less people at my own wedding. In addition to this, she complains about other people in her life to my mom and sister, about how no one's pitching in. She even asked my mom what she's contributing to the shower, and my 70-year-old retired mother was taken aback by that comment and offered to cook food for the 120 people. She's been so ungrateful through this entire process and has since uninvited me to her shower and sarcastically said, enjoy your 40th, and remove me from my sibling group chat. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. No, you're not the jerk at all. Your sister really tried to be like, oh, you're gonna pay for everything? Okay, thank you. And then even after all the stuff you've done to like make sure this baby shower happens, like booking the venue and answering all the questions, she seriously has the audacity to sit there and be like, you're not doing enough. And I know if that was me and I had put all this time into this and I was actively trying to be involved instead of paying for the whole thing, and someone said that to me, oh man, I would be so pissed off. I would not take that sitting down and I would go nuts. For her to say something like that at your expense, in my opinion, is so toxic. So no, you're not the jerk for getting upset because what she said to you is absolutely unacceptable. My partner decided to prank me while we were in Japan in February, so I decided to bide my time by getting some petty revenge when we returned back in December, as I got revenge in the exact same way that she had pranked me. Here's what happened. Early February last year, my partner and I traveled to Japan, which was in its winter season. Midway through our trip, one morning we woke up to the aftermath of what was an overnight snowstorm. Excited, we both ran outside, danced in the snow, and posed for photos. And one photo my partner asked me to pose for was me holding a snowball. Now, naive me, thinking it was a quick 5-second photo opportunity, happily obliged. However, she was taking her time, rotating the phone and telling me to hold still, and after the snow started to attack my hands with frozen temperature spells, I started asking, are you done yet? But my partner responds with evil grins and laughs before I realized what she was doing and dropped the pile of snow in defeat while she laughed and pat herself on the back for a prank well done. Well, fast forward to last month in December, and we're back in Japan in the same town, and we're both just walking along the streets and admiring the Christmas and New Year's decorations. I'm basking in the views when my partner calls out as she says to me, hey, look, take a photo. I turn around and there she is, smiling, holding a pile of snow. I then pull out my phone, and before I even do anything, my brain flashes back to that awful minute in February of 2024 when my hands were wronged and how this was an amazing opportunity opportunity for justice. So I aim the camera at her, I rotate the angle, and I say, hold still for just a bit longer. Okay, just a little bit more. Wait, let me get this angle just right. Oh man, the brightness of the snow. Let me adjust that real quick. And at this point, my partner is looking at me dumbfounded, wondering why I'm taking so long for what she thought was a simple 5-second photo. That is, until she spotted the devilish grin on my face, and then the penny dropped. She looks at me and says, "Did you just seriously wait 10 months to get back at me for that?" But all I did was smile with an evil grin. For the rest of the afternoon, she was in disbelief at how I still remembered what she did 10 months later, and how I had just got her back. But you know what? It was all worth it, because my hands got their sweet cold justice. Oh man, I find this story super cute. This is one of those like petty revenge situations where it really is harmless, but also you're almost chomping at the bit to make sure that that revenge actually happens. Like seriously, this is a long game situation that honestly I find to be fascinating. So yeah, I find this story super cute, and I think the fact that you actually pulled it off, in my opinion, is absolutely even better. Am I the jerk for refusing to give a refund to a person I sold my TV to on Facebook Marketplace, as they literally broke it as they were putting it into their car? Because even though I explained all of this to them and told them that it was working before they broke it, they're claiming that I'm a scammer and that I must be hurting for money. And at this point, I'm honestly so confused and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of backstory, I've been selling mine and my partner's things on Facebook Marketplace because we are moving into an RV soon, meaning that we won't have room for a lot of it. I've been trying to sell this TV that works perfectly fine for a bit now, and I have a video of it being turned on and off on the post. The last times I turned it on was this morning and it worked perfectly fine, with not even a scratch on it. My partner and I both carry it to our Kia Soul that had the seats down so we could lay it flat screen facing up to not scratch it or break it and transport it to the meetup place. Well, I sell it to this person, and my partner and I watch as this person is shoving a 55-inch TV screen down into the back seat of a Kia Optima that, by the way, has a car seat in it. I asked her 4 times if she needed or wanted my help, and she repeatedly told me no. So I got into our car, and my partner and I both agreed that this person just broke the screen of a perfectly good TV that I just sold them. Well, as time would tell, they texted me and told me the screen was broken, and I replied by saying, well, the screen wasn't broken when we gave it to you, so I don't know what to tell you. I used it this morning and I transported it to you screen up to make sure it didn't touch anything or get broken. Well, they called me a scammer, that I'm hurting for money, and that I'm dishonest, and that they were going to call the police on me if I didn't give them their money back, that they had my license plate and they were going to blast me on Facebook. Now, I feel like I did my part to make sure the TV got to them safely, and I tried to help her several times and I got rejected. This really is my first time experiencing something like this, so I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation in any way, shape, or form? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. That lady's an idiot for not transporting that TV properly. Like seriously, it's like she wanted to damage the TV in some kind of way. And it's not like you just left her to figure it out on her own. You went up to her 4 different times and said, hey, do you need help? Do you need anything at all? And she just kept saying, no, I don't need help. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? You clearly need help. You're ruining that TV and now you're trying to blame me for it. So are you the jerk for not giving the money back? Absolutely not. This lady broke it the second she got it. And that is not your fault at all, because you sold her a good working TV. And the fact that she broke it and is still trying to get a refund, in my opinion, shows how idiotic and stupid this person truly is. An entitled older couple freak out when their card doesn't work at my cash register, claiming that it's all because I don't know how to do my job instead of some kind of problem that they caused themselves. Things got so bad that the man of that couple actually threw a coffee cup at me in a fit of rage, as he simply couldn't understand why I couldn't do my job. And I've honestly never been more angry with anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, this is a story from when I worked at a very popular theme park in Florida, and this incident is one that almost made me quit. I was working as the cashier at a bakery store area for the resort I worked at. It was really busy and my line was very long. I was a fast cashier, so I was moving through the guests rather quickly. I hear an older man and woman arguing with each other as they come up through my line, but I just mind my business and I ring up their things. The man then says with an attitude that he needs a cup for coffee. So I grab one, I sit it on the counter, and I ring it up with the rest of their things. I tell them their total and they pull out their room card to pay. Now, room cards for reference were connected to their guest IDs, and guests could also connect a debit or credit card to them to try and make things easier during their vacation. So I go through the process of charging the card, but the computer won't read it, and I do it multiple times, but still I get nothing. The older woman then says, "This is the second card that's doing this." The older man responds by saying, "Well, what am I supposed to do? She's the one that doesn't know what she's doing." something, and he's literally referring to me. I look at him and I say, "Sir, do you have the debit or credit card associated with the room card with you? I could just use that instead of this." At this point, the old man then starts screaming at me. He says to me, "If I had that, I wouldn't have handed you the room key. Why can't you do your job?" Now at this point, I'm trying to calm down and remain not ignorant. A nice guest behind the man chimes in and says to the older gentleman that if it's happened 2 times already, it's probably because they're putting it next to their cell phone or something else that is demagnetizing it because it happened to them as well. This old jerk then looks at this nicer young man and says, "Who asked you?" The young man raises his hand and says sorry sarcastically, while other guests look at the older couple like they're nuts and look at me with sympathy. I look at him and I say, "Sir, ma'am, do you have any other form of payment?" And at this point, the man throws the stuff they had angrily on the counter, and his wife follows up by knocking the cup on the ground. At this point, some people leave the line, and the welcome desk lady some feet behind me stare on in bewilderment. The older man then starts screaming, "I don't even want this crap anymore. All I wanted was a coffee." Now me, wanting them to just leave my line and get off my nerves, I say to them, "Here, I'll give you the coffee for free." I hand him another cup, which he attempts to snatch out of my hand, causing this one to also drop to the ground. And this was the moment that he did something to me that honestly blew my mind. He picks it up and angrily throws it at me. He screams out, "I need another one." And at this point, my mind was blown. Guys, I was shaking. What I'm feeling at that moment wasn't rage, but rather it was wrath. I'm brown, but my face and neck were red. I then understood why God didn't give humans superpowers, because I would have reduced that entire place to ashes, starting with that older couple. Everything would have gone up in flames. I then grabbed another cup and I sat it on the counter. Before handing it to the man, I calmly spoke to him. I said, "Sir, instead of acting like this, all you had to do was ask. You see that desk behind me? They can print you a new card if you need it." Him and his wife seemed to deflate, but said nothing as I handed him the cup. I then asked them to leave my line and they walked away. The nice man and his woman looked at me with pity, and the woman said she was sorry that I had to go through that. I managed to ring up their things, but I couldn't continue. So I called my manager on the phone that was next to the cash register. She answered and instantly knew by my voice that something was wrong. I then told her that I needed a break and that I couldn't be there right now. She said okay and said she was on her way, and then a minute later told me to take a breather. I couldn't even make it to the worker break room bathroom before the tears started, so I ran to the guest bathroom into a stall and I cried there. I cried not because I was sad, but because I was angry and had to suppress it. I was boiling over like a pot of water on the inside. Throughout that week, no matter where I saw that man and his wife, I gave them the nastiest stink eye I could possibly muster. Suddenly, they were super nice to everyone else, but refused to make eye contact with me longer than a few seconds. And although they never apologized for the way they treated me, they did, however, look incredibly guilty anytime they saw me. Okay, I resonate with this so much because this captures so beautifully what it's like to be in customer service. Not only do you get to deal with people all the time who treat you like garbage, but also you have other people trying to give their sympathy to you for the way that you got treated. Like, I'm not blaming the other couple for being like, "Wow, I'm so sorry you got treated like that." But sometimes, honestly, it really feels like when you're in customer service, whether that's a cashier or a server or something like that, you become this animal in a cage that people can either treat really nicely or treat like garbage depending on who it is. And it's like, yes, the man and woman of this story are absolute pieces of garbage, but also being told, "I'm so sorry you have to deal with that," in my opinion, is super condescending. I know they meant well, but for me, I would still be super upset because there's nothing anybody can do about this. They can't stop them from acting like that, and I also, in some cases, can't stop them from doing that either. Like, just look at the way the original poster reacted here. They had to not only give them a free cup of coffee, but they had to be nice about this instead of being like, "Why are you talking to me like that?" Because they knew for a fact they would lose their job. If I had $1 for every time I wanted to tell off a patient or a customer or any other field that I've worked in where you're like a forward-facing member of the company, I would have so much money it's not even funny. And I think anybody who's worked customer service would understand where I'm coming from there. And I also understand them running to the bathroom and crying because I've been there as well. I'm not sad or scared about the way they talk to me, but instead I'm so angry that I have no control of the situation. And this for me is why having a good manager is so important in these kind of jobs. Because any manager who's worth their weight in salt would literally tell you like, okay, you can tell them off and tell them to get lost. You can deny service, and yes, you can tell them to leave. But if they had a different manager who was not compassionate about your situation, they could easily side with these pieces of crap that treated you like garbage. And by the way, they tossed their items at you in a fit of rage, all because they screwed up their stupid card. Like, that's not your fault. That's nobody's fault but theirs. This story hits so many layers deep for me. I love it so much because honestly, it really captures what it's like to be in customer service. Because truly, especially nowadays, these kinds of interactions happen way more than people might realize. If you like like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I got fired several years ago right before Thanksgiving, leaving me in such a pinch that it honestly ruined so much of my life. So I decided to get some petty revenge by ensuring that their online presence for this company would be littered with negative reviews that they could never escape from. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, this happened at an old company and job of mine. For reference, they messed me over so bad and they really did me dirty. They fired me for no reason, but the manager in charge felt threatened by me. I truly was a solid employee, and I had a hunger to grow, learn, and overwork myself. This was a while back. My managers starting off were great, but the last one was an external hire and couldn't answer a phone call, let alone should be a manager in the first place. He is too concerned about who he can bang and make sure that he only hires ones within a certain criteria that is completely inappropriate. Well, the company has a 2.6 rating on Indeed, and constantly there are negative reviews and a few positive reviews. I would have a positive review too if I wasn't working under a dirtbag for half my time there. Anyway, since that time, I go back and I make sure to thumbs up all the negative reviews as they come in. And I'm doing this so no one else considers working with them or to encourage that the negative reviews are in fact true to how they are. Now, it's stupid and petty, but honestly, I don't care. I would celebrate if that company burns down to the ground. They fired me days before Thanksgiving. You know, a single mother who had the top performance and saved the company millions of dollars. Yes, that's right, millions of dollars. So in the end, they were just another crooked corporation system, and I'm honestly so glad I'm away from them, and I truly pray for their downfall. Oh man, I've been there 100%. You leave a job that treated you like crap, and so you decide, okay, let's make their online presence suck. And sure, I've thought about doing this in some kind of way, where I make their online presence look like garbage or something like that, but it seems like you decided, oh no, I'm gonna do it. And you started like really making sure that people saw these negative reviews. And I don't totally think that's petty, like it really does seem like these people suck, and people need to know exactly what they're getting into. So the fact that they have a 2.6 rating on Indeed, and they really are just not having a good time on that regard, in my opinion, will do wonders for this company and making sure that people avoid them. Because I don't know about you, but if I see a 2.6 out of 5 rating on some kind of website, then I, as the customer or even a potential hire, would be like, wait a second, why do they suck so much? And then I would immediately go to the reviews and be like, wait a second, why do these people have such bad ratings? Thus completing the cycle that the original poster wanted to happen. So yeah, I think what you're doing is well deserved, because from the sounds of it, these people absolutely deserve the trouble. My idiotic father is convinced that Donald Trump invited him specifically to come to his inauguration. And right now, I'm worried that he's fallen for a scam, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was visiting my parents this weekend. They live out of state, so I don't see them often, but my mom had just gotten out of the hospital. While I was there, I had one of the most frustrating conversations I've ever had with my father. I said to him, remember, never give any money to people who call or email you. The scammers are getting really advanced, and people who think they're prepared for this somehow still fall for it. They especially target older people. My father then said, oh, I know. I would never do that. We don't fall for scammers. So I respond and say, well, that's good. Just letting you know they've escalated things and gotten really good at convincing people that they are legit. They spoof numbers, they buy your info online, and they try to make you believe them. Now, my dad, who's slightly irritated by my insistence, said to me, I know, I got it. We use Wells Fargo because they have really good security against that stuff, and they'll give you your money back, because most scams attack your bank account. At this point, I looked at him and I said, sure, I guess, but if you make a payment through your bank, then maybe that could help, but there's no guarantee. But my father kept saying that he knew what he was talking about, and that apparently he coaches other older people about it. So I looked at him and I said, okay, I'm just making sure that you're aware of this, because most of the time, they don't attack your bank account. They convince you to withdraw cash and put it on a gift card or Bitcoin, and then give them the information. Then the money's gone and nobody can help you get it back. But even with my warning, my father kept saying, I know, I would never fall for that. And I just said, okay, that's good. Well, not even a few minutes later, my dad responded in a way that honestly was so weird. He said to me, you know, if your mom didn't get sick, I would have been flying to Washington today for the inauguration tomorrow. I then look up at him pretending to be interested, and I say, oh really? Well, that's cool, I guess. He said to me, yeah, I donated some money to Trump, so he sends me stuff in the mail. It was kind of a lot, but not really that much, but it was a good amount. So yeah, basically Trump sent me an invite to the inauguration. He was going to send his private jet to pick me up and fly me to Washington, and put me in a hotel with all expenses paid. Now at this point, he was smiling, and I was waiting for him to say, oh, I'm just kidding, but he didn't. And it was right then that I realized he was serious. I looked at him and I said, well, it sounds like a scam to me, but my my dad responded by saying, "No, it's real. Trump's been sending me stuff all the time in the mail ever since I donated. He invited me specifically." After that, I just changed the topic because I didn't want to argue. It is so wild to think that my dad actually believed all of this, especially after insisting that he would never fall for a scam. Sadly though, I wouldn't be surprised if he falls for a Trump-related scam down the road, because from the looks of it, he doesn't seem like the brightest apple in the bunch. Oh my gosh, that is so weird. Seriously, how can you fall for something like that? The second any politician, regardless of who it is or what side of the aisle they're on, sends me something in the mail asking for a specific donation, like that for me is a giant red flag, and I would be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's crazy. Because seriously, dude, think about it. Does this guy really think that the president is going to invite him specifically? You know, someone who he doesn't know and is just some regular, ordinary citizen? Like, that's so dumb and so stupid. Like, what is he thinking? Like, no one actually believes that, right? If anything, this is like a scammer's paradise, where they get free money, probably like a couple $100s from the person, and then they just keep sending him stuff trying to bait more money out of them. So yeah, your dad is completely wrong, and obviously he fell for something that he didn't expect. And hopefully, for the sake of you and your family, this doesn't happen to him again anytime soon. My daughter is incredibly entitled, as she constantly treats me and my wife like garbage, literally blaming us for all of her problems and refusing to take accountability for anything that she does. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I know this is a long post, but this all involves my daughter, and the entitlement she shows is honestly just so astounding. It all started when she was young. She never has been able to accept responsibility for her actions, and even if she wasn't directly involved, she would ignore her role in the events. For example, she had a friend sleep over, and they played Ding Dong Ditch on our neighbor who lives next door. And of course, it was all her friend's idea, and all of her friend's fault and not hers. My wife and I were both telling her, but wait a second, you were there, you participated in it. My words included were to say, if you're going to do that, go to another neighborhood where nobody knows us. Also, as a child, she would often, as she described it, accidentally hurt her younger sister. We would want her to apologize and say she was sorry, but she would respond by saying, "I don't feel sorry, and I won't even say it if I don't feel sorry." We tried to explain how, as an adult, we often say that as an acknowledgement of an event, but also as an acceptance of fault. For example, if you bump into a cart at the supermarket, you say sorry as an immediate response. But even with that example, she still wouldn't do it. She's also a quitter. Every time something gets hard, she wants to quit. We enrolled her in karate, and every new belt level was another challenge. New skills to learn, new techniques to master, new forms to learn. I mean, she would be all excited about graduating, but then would want to quit a few classes into the new belt, all because it was too hard. We would explain that this is why you go, so you learn to do them and get better. We would offer to video the instructor so that we could practice at home, but that was not good enough. But eventually she quit at advanced brown belt. Then came gymnastics. You know, the BMW car payment a month, plus competition fees, uniforms, travel, and hotels. She would only eat chips and candy, and I would bring her cut up apples, but she just refused to eat it. Any healthier snacks she would just decline. She wanted us to spend money on the snack machine for more candy or chips. I tried to have a discussion about how much she's working out, like maybe 4 hours, 3 to 4 times a week, and then she would accuse me of calling her fat. But I never said that. She would then say, "Well, you said I needed to go on a diet." And it's like, no, I said you need a healthier diet with proteins and healthier food to rebuild your body. She wanted me to watch her at practice, and honestly, I simply couldn't. I was too enraged. Her behavior was horrible in the gym, and once again, it wasn't her fault. Was she climbing the door to look out the window? Well, apparently everyone else was doing it. Was she just standing on the balance beam and not doing anything? Well, apparently she was waiting for them to watch her. And it's like, trust me, honey, they are watching you. They're watching you stand there and not practice. If you practice, they are more likely to come by and offer some help. If you are just standing there, then they will pay more attention to those who are doing something. She would also say stuff like, "Oh, they just don't like me." Or my favorite, "Well, why can't I just have fun?" Well, eventually she gets her license, and we borrow against our retirement to get her a car. And trust me, this is nothing fancy, but it's hers to use. And if we ask her to help clear the driveway, well, apparently she'll just say, "Well, this is not my house." We then find out her friend gets her permit, so we have a talk about how no one else is to drive that car. It is in my wife's name, and my daughter is not legally allowed to supervise an unlicensed driver anyways. But also, she's the only one allowed to drive that vehicle. Well, fast forward, and she then lets a 14-year-old who she knew didn't have a license or a permit drive the car. And guess what? He totaled it. They tried to cover it up by switching seats, despite the fact that there were witnesses. Then they lied to the cops about it. But again, it's not her fault. He told her that he knew how to drive. And let's not even begin to mention the vapes. She drops out of high school because I'll never use any of that stuff in real life. We then use her college money to, yet again, help her get another car, which she had for a few months and sold it back to the dealer at a huge loss, all so that she can move states away to move in with her boyfriend. Thousands of dollars gone, and she has none of it left after about 4 months, and now she's also back home, because what happened between them is between them. Another time is when we were meeting up at a family member's house for football. Prior to that meeting, they stopped for dinner at a restaurant and picked me up in order to go. It was also sitting on the back seat next to her as we pulled up. Now, I had prior obligations, so I didn't attend dinner, but we all had arrived at the same time. I asked her to please grab my food, but she said to me, "You've got arms, go get it yourself." And I was like, seriously? It's right next to you. You could just grab it. But she then looked at me and said, "Why are you yelling at me?" Even though I wasn't yelling. I responded back by saying, "Well, why can't you just grab my food? Why are you yelling?" And this went back and forth. My wife then had a talk with her and told her basically that she was being ridiculous and unreasonable. I'm the only person she ever treats this way, and I'm owed an apology. Well, as you can probably guess, I never got one. When we got home, I told her how upset I was by her lack of a simple act of kindness, and to never ask me for another favor, because trust me, I won't do it. Don't ask me for help ever again. Well, at Christmas, she mentioned how she recognizes that she's a reason our communication isn't the greatest, which literally is the first time she's accepted responsibility, but still not given an apology. I then asked if she's ever been made to feel like she was less than a family member or made to feel like she was adopted, and to that she said no. Well, fast forward to now, and I help her to the doctor, and she texts me and says, "Can we stop for pancakes?" And this is while she's back waiting for the doctor. I then text back and I say, "We can stop somewhere and you can buy pancakes, whether it's McDonald's or whatever." But her reply was to say, "Okay, well, never mind." But it's like, okay, I guess I'm the jerk here. On the way home, she tells me that she has a prescription that she needs to get picked up. Now, I don't remember how it came up, but she finally admits that she doesn't have her wallet. She has no way to pay for it, and she only has $35 in her account. And at this point, she's 18 years old. Now, does she want me to swing by the house to go get it? Well, no, of course not. She wants me to pay for it. I tell her that this is part of being an adult and being responsible. I then tell her about a company that can possibly give discounts that they might offer, and then I include my own personal experience with saving over $200 getting a prescription filled this way. But all I get is a thumbs up. But now she's talking to me because I'm apparently rude and disrespectful. And trust me, I know I will never win Father of the Year with my daughter. I love her for being my child, but I'm honestly just completely emotionally spent. Okay, I think your daughter is super spoiled and super rotten, and I think you have every right to be upset. And I want to start off with that because I think we have a bigger problem here. You both, and I mean both you and your wife, consistently cave in to any of her demands. It's like you get upset about what she's doing, and then you're like, okay, I guess we'll pay for it. Like seriously, you're a part of the problem. You are literally enabling this behavior in a weird way. For example, when she ding-dong ditched the neighbor, instead of saying, "Oh my God, don't ever do that again, you're grounded," you said, "Well, why don't you go to another neighborhood where nobody knows us?" You didn't actively condone the activity. Instead, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is fine. Do it somewhere else where we don't know people." It's like, what are you doing? That is so stupid. Why would you encourage this behavior from somebody who clearly is irresponsible? And I can get past the whole sports situation where she's like doing gymnastics or karate. I mean, that's typical kid stuff. Kids quit stuff all the time, so that doesn't bother me. But the second you describe that car incident where one of her friends totaled the car and then she tried to be like, "Well, it's not my fault," and even lie to the police, that would have been the final straw for me. Because there is no way on planet Earth she would ever be welcome back in my house. She would be gone forever. And I'm talking when she hits 18 years old, she's got to find some place to live. Like that is so unbelievably crazy. Because this is so much further than some like angsty teenager. Quite literally anything else would be acceptable except for this. This crosses so many boundaries for me, it's not even funny. But what do you do in this situation? You take from her college fund and say, "Okay, we'll get you another car," but then she turns around and sells it again. Like, what is going on right now? This is not normal behavior. You should not be putting up with this, and I can't believe that you are. So yes, your daughter is super entitled, but you are also super blind because you are literally enabling this behavior from the very beginning. And if you want any kind of serious change to happen, then in my opinion, the change has to start with you. An entitled jerk goes on the wrong way of the road on a one-way street that literally has no room for turning around. But instead of submitting to this guy and his huge truck, my friend and I decided to stand our ground, humiliating this idiot in such a way that he truly will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my grocery has a narrow one-way rows of angled parking, and the lot is very busy, in part because there's a shopping mall attached to its feeder road, and jerks will often speed through the lot from the feeder road to avoid a stoplight. These entitled idiots frequently don't grasp the concept of a one-way, and cause traffic jams when they inevitably encounter drivers going the right way. It is seriously dangerous. The many other cars cars and pedestrians don't expect morons to be barreling down the road the wrong way. When one of these traffic jams happens, the easiest way to fix it is the person who's going the right way has to pull back into a parking space, assuming there's an empty one, thus enabling the wrong way idiot to pass. Recently, I was shopping with a friend, and as expected, we pulled out of our spot, and naturally, we soon met with a moron in a gigantic pickup truck bombing up the road the wrong way. Well, it turns out that she had had enough of these people. On this day, most parking spaces around us were filled, but there was one right there that she could have pulled into. Well, Mr. Tiny Man in the pickup felt so entitled to the right-of-way, he even stopped far back enough so she could pull into the spot for his convenience. But rather than do so, she surprised everyone by aggressively slowing down and stopping a few feet from his huge bumper. Mr. Little Man then had the nerve to rev his engine a few times and kept creeping forward threateningly, as if he was going to force us to back all the way up to the end of the aisle so he didn't have to do the same. But my friend just put the car in parked and just waited. He then honked his horn at her, as if she were the one going the wrong way. She then pulled out her phone and started recording him, and I was kind of scared that he might road rage us into an early grave, but he didn't. Behind us, the stoplight he should have gone through turned green, and I could see him seething as he watched all the normal drivers that he thought he'd cut off getting their turn to go ahead of him. In the end, infuriated, he threw his truck into reverse and slammed on the gas, backing up way too fast for a parking lot. About 4 parking spaces back, he miscalculated the angle of his wheel and slammed the back of his pickup on the cart corral. And this wasn't a disabling accident, and luckily he didn't hit a pedestrian, but I'm sure that will cost him a pretty penny. He didn't even stop to get out and inspect the damage, most likely because he managed to publicly shame himself in such a grand fashion. It was honestly all so satisfying to watch because this entitled jerk absolutely had it coming. Oh man, I love this so much because seriously, I have run into this very situation myself. Here you have a one-way road that literally you're meant to go on. It's a tight squeeze and there's only one car that's meant to be there, and you're the one that's supposed to be going this direction. But then here comes some jerk barreling down on you, acting like you're the one that's in the way, when in reality, he's the one who started all of this to begin with. And for starters, the fact that this hasn't been like addressed or had like a cop car parked in front of just to give out tickets and discourage this kind of action, in my opinion, is insane. I can understand not wanting to deal with traffic, but going the wrong way on the road is not the answer. That's how someone gets in an accident or worse. Like seriously, someone could have gotten hurt by this guy. And I just need to say this, and maybe someone can answer this in the comment section, but why is it that anyone who acts this way most likely is someone in a very big truck? Is it because the truck's big and they feel like they can get away with it? Or is there some kind of like, I don't know, correlation between like the kind of person you are and how big your truck is? And also, look, there's obviously some euphemisms here that I've replaced, especially when I say little man, because this guy has more of like a little man energy, if anything, and I think you know what I'm trying to say here. Obviously, I want to say it, but you know that I can't, so I think we kind of understand where I'm coming from. But like, why is that the case? This guy literally was in the wrong and he thought he could bully this other person into moving? Like, what's happening? Just because your vehicle's bigger than mine doesn't mean that I have to bend to your stupid will. So seriously, to the original poster, I love what you did and I'm a big fan of this, because this entitled jerk was absolutely in the wrong and you had every right to stay there until he decided to move. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by accidentally outing my sister's pregnancy all before she was ready to say anything to the family, because right now she is super pissed off at me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the situation. My sister recently found out that she's pregnant, but she had not told anyone yet except for me and her husband. She made me swear not to say anything until they were ready to announce it themselves, and I really meant to keep that promise. Well, fast forward to last night, when we were having a small family gathering at our parents' house. Someone brought up babies, and I think it was our aunt asking when someone in the family would finally have kids again, and without thinking, I blurted out something like, well, you won't have to wait long, while then looking directly at my sister. Well, everyone immediately turned their attention towards her, while I realized what I'd just done, because right in that moment, I wanted to crawl into a hole forever. My sister tried laughing it off at first, but eventually admitted that yes, she is pregnant, but they weren't planning on telling anyone until after her first trimester because they wanted to make sure that everything was okay first. Now she's furious with me for spilling the beans early, and understandably so. Our parents are upset that they weren't told sooner, which is also understandable, and I now feel like the worst sibling ever. What should I do? Oh my gosh, you're that kind of person. You literally spill the beans immediately. And I really do mean immediately, because while sure you may have sat on this information for a while, what you really needed to do was keep your mouth shut anytime that subject is brought up in the first place. Like if I was in your sister's your shoes, I would never trust you with any information ever again. You proved right then and there that you can't know anything. You can't keep your mouth shut, you can't keep secrets. I mean, I would never tell you anything ever again if you did that to me. So yeah, you definitely messed up here because what you did is so unbelievably toxic. And if I was in your shoes, I would be falling at my sister's feet begging for forgiveness because what you did is unacceptable and you really should be ashamed of yourself. Am I overreacting for refusing to pay an extra $600 just to stay with my dad before going to the army? Because right now I'm very confused and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. A few days ago, I decided to join the army. Since I will be leaving soon, I asked my dad if I could stay with him, his fiance, and my sisters until it's time to go. Now, we agreed that I would pay double what I used to contribute for living expenses. For reference, I used to pay $300 a month, so doubling it would be $600. I gave him the $600 as agreed, but then he told me I was another $600 short. Now, I was super confused because $600 is double what I used to pay. I explained that to him, thinking that maybe he forgot the original amount, but he kept insisting that I owed him more money. At that point, I asked him for the extra $600 back because I needed that money, especially with the expenses I have coming up before I leave. Well, he refused to return it and didn't even seem interested in hearing me out. I'm honestly at a loss here. I wasn't trying to cause any drama. I just wanted to contribute fairly and make things easier for everyone before I leave. I feel like he's either misunderstood or deliberately took advantage of the situation, and that honestly hurts. I didn't want to argue about it, so after a few hours, I packed up and I went to my sister's place, and I will be staying here until I leave for basic training. The whole situation has honestly been eating me up. I can't stop thinking about how unnecessary this was. I get that everyone's stressed and maybe money is tight for them, but I feel like I was clear about the arrangement. Plus, I'm about to leave for a huge new chapter in my life, and I didn't expect this kind of stress from my own father right before that. Part of me wants to keep pressing him to return the money because it's not just about the cash, it's the principle of it. On the other hand, I'm wondering if it's worth the energy. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Should I have pushed harder to get the money back, or just let it go and focus on moving forward? I'm really torn between wanting to stand my ground and not wanting to deal with the headache. So I really would love some advice, especially from anyone who's been in a similar situation with family or dealt with money disputes, because right now I'm honestly not sure how to handle this. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're overreacting for wanting that money back, because guess what? If you're not staying there, then he needs to give it back. Plus, this guy's a jerk for trying to charge you double what you already were giving him. Like seriously, this guy is completely immature. And the fact that he was trying to double it on top of that is also insane. So no, you're not the jerk here. Your dad needs to give you your money back because you literally are not staying with him. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would be climbing up the walls with rage, demanding that he hand that back over. Because sure, his money might be tight, but guess what? You're the one that just paid him. And if he really doesn't give that money back, then he is absolutely the one at fault. The new servers that work in my restaurant are absolutely the worst, as they're making my life a living nightmare, forcing me to clean up after them all the time in a way that is truly driving me crazy. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been a server here for almost 2 years now. I'm the closer and head server, and as the head server, I have some authority to a point, and I was recently recommended by my manager to corporate for some kind of manager's position. So I've been training under my manager to take on more responsible roles, but the only thing I can't do until I get the new position is count the drawer and do the schedule. Now we have 2 new hires who I will call Jay and Lisa, and Jay was hired first a few weeks ago, and for some reason, the day shift management always have the new trainees train on the first shift, which is not ideal because first shift has really bad habits. And to illustrate that, let's just say that the first shift and the second shift definitely despise each other. Well, after Jay was put on the floor by himself after his training by the first shift, he was put on second shift and I was shocked by what I saw from him. He has shoulder-length hair that was not pulled up or back, and after 3 weeks, he still has no non-slip shoes. He would also put in an order and then run off to the hotel bathroom, which we are not allowed to do. Or his food would come up, and then he would go to the bathroom for 10 minutes at a time. He never does the 2-minute check back at the table. He never does refills. He doesn't pre-bus dishes from his tables. And my manager basically waited on his tables every night that he worked. A table also complained about a lot of dandruff on his shoulders. He just basically takes an order, puts it in, and then disappears while we do the rest for him. Now, my manager and I go outside to vape and to have meetings. And this is mostly about the schedule and what the general manager or the owner want to see from us, or even something the GM wants to change, product costs, buckling down on certain things, or talk about what we're going to do next for my manager training. Then we talk about personal things in our lives that we just want to stay between us. When we start to head outside, grab our coat as it is snowing where we live, and ask a server to watch the front for us, Jay immediately follows us outside, or sees that we're out there and heads right outside with us. When he gets cut, it's time to do side work, and my God, I can't do my closing until he's done with his side work. And we've told him this many times. Now, I have ADHD and a cleaning OCD. I have a routine that I always do when closing, and I can be clocked out 30 to 45 minutes after we lock the doors. He had never said that he has ADD or ADHD, never mentioned anything about anything close to having it or anything similar, but this guy is seriously so scattered. One second he's in the back doing his side work, and the next he has half his section vacuumed and then takes 30 minutes to roll 20 sets of silverware while he still has 80% of side work in the back left to do. He'll say something like, "Oh, I got bored being back there, so I went up front to do my section," which he didn't even get halfway done before going to do roll with Lisa. We have a 2-hour rule after closing, which basically means we can't stay past 2 hours after close. So we have to hustle to get out of there. He clocked out after being cut for 3 hours and still didn't do all of his side work. And I told him weeks ago that I have a 3-year-old at home that I would like to tuck into bed. Now, when it comes to Lisa, I really thought that she would do great because her parents used to own a restaurant when she was a bit younger. She is a teenager, and she was also trained on first shift, and she was on the floor by herself after 2 days of training, and then she was put in on second shift. And as you can probably guess, Lisa too picked up first shift's bad habits. I've seen her do a multitude of health code violations on my first day working with her, and my high blood pressure skyrocketed. She and Jay, while supposedly doing side work, just stood around talking the entire time. Instead of the 80-20 rule, she is leaning on the wall across from the line on her phone, which is definitely not allowed. I mean, corporate is watching with cameras, and we have literally told her this. If it's not work related, then you can't be on your phone. And she gives an attitude when you ask her to do or don't do something. When we say corner, it should be loud enough to be heard on the opposite side, not loud enough where you can hear it at the front doors as if someone's screaming corner at the top of their lungs. It really disrupts our guests. She also has very rude comments and responses when trying to have a conversation with her. My manager and I have to restart the same sentence at least 3 or more times, especially when telling her about her side work, because she turns around and talks to Jay very loudly and then just laughs about not listening to you. Now, the other night we close at 9 p.m. and I didn't clock out until nearly 8 minutes before 1 in the morning. My manager told them to just clock out and go, and I had to finish their side work, my closing, their sections, and mine, plus roll the silverware I had, 6 sets, and it took 1 minute to roll, but it took them 30 minutes to roll 20 sets each. My manager and I talked about how if someone is going to be on second shift, then they need to be trained by second shift. She's going to talk to the general manager about it, but regardless, I take pride in my job and how I am as a closer. The general manager even called it beautiful when going in on the morning after. Plus, our owner has been secretly coming in as a secret shopper recently, and if he doesn't like what he sees, we will either be sold or shut down. And as for the first shift, they get their tip out and run out the door without doing half their side work or even touching their section. But I come in and finish side work for them. I have to clean my section, do fills, clean tables and booths, and vacuum while missing out on tips because I'm getting skipped over and over. They make sometimes over $300 in tips and skip out, while I come in, do half or more of their work, and make maybe $38 in total. And for reference, it's slow at night during the winter, especially when it snows over 4 inches. I can't work mornings because of my kid, and I don't have anyone to watch her at 8 o'clock in the morning. My mom watches her while I work nights, and my mom works mornings. And they don't want me on first shift because apparently I bully them because I point out health code violations and cross-contaminations that they do. Well, Jay was let go on Monday, and I was told to educate Lisa while working with her. But with all things considered, I'm honestly wondering if anyone else has ever dealt with new servers like this before, because I am seriously so frustrated and I don't know what to do. Yeah, it really sounds like your coworkers are not nearly as motivated as you are. And trust me, I understand the animosity between shifts, because there is nothing more frustrating than coming in and realize that people left you their mess to clean up. And it's like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? If I did that, these people would freak out, and yet I'm expected to keep my stuff clean for them in the morning. It's like, what are we doing right now? That is so unfair. Now, I know if I was in your shoes, I would just keep doing the best that I can and try to show my coworkers that yes, they need to work together to get things done. That means doing their side work and doing their portion of what they need to do. And it sounds like you might be up for management, so I think having some kind of like practice with that and trying to keep a level head while also trying to train them would probably do wonders for your job and your sanity at this job. Because trust me, I totally understand where you're coming from, especially when you're dealing with incompetent coworkers, because that really can bog you down in a way that others can't understand unless they experience it themselves. I was severely bullied during my stay at a small Christian university, resulting in a lot of anguish and a lot of problems in my life. But at the end of the day, karma came around and took care care of my bullies in a way that they will never forget, as their lives literally fell apart. Here's what happened. Okay, so I attended a small Christian university roughly 20 years ago. It was actually accredited and offered a good education. Honestly, the professors and staff were really good overall, but oh dear sweet flying spaghetti monster, the students were something else. It was like a magnet for entitled brats. My first year, I had not made many friends. I'm an introvert, and I was so painfully shy at the time, so pulling myself out there was really hard. As a result, I ended up with a roommate my second year that I didn't know at all. Let's call him Jake for the sake of the story. Jake was a bully. Most of my life, I think I walked around with a bully me sign on my back, as it was a pretty constant thing in my childhood and early adult life. He would randomly take things, question every choice I made, and talk down about my studies. He also had a friend who we will call Mark, who was maybe even worse. He was also a bully. The guy was a checklist of all the worst aspects of religious fanatics, arrogant, a hypocrite, and seemed to want power and influence. And so he was aiming to become a pastor. Both were pretty relentless in bullying me. They said that they wouldn't if I stood up for myself, but when I did, I quickly found out that they could dish it out but couldn't take it. They would interrupt my studies and sleep constantly, and it was seriously the first time I ever contemplated hurting myself in a serious way, if you know what I mean. I ended up spending most of my time anywhere that wasn't my dorm. Now, there are a lot of stories I could share about them, but I wanted to focus on just a few. For starters, Mark liked to play video games with us, mostly Smash Brothers. He was always cocky, and he was better than me, who prefers to play other types of games. Trash talk was common, but neither of them could take what they dished out. One time we were playing with a group, and I actually managed to win. I was in the zone, and I felt really good. That is, until Mark opened his mouth. Mark said to me, "Wow, I lost to this guy? Man, I was playing terribly." I said to him, "Well, maybe God wanted to see you humbled." And yes, I kinda sucked at burns back then. Mark then looked at me and said, "Well, he's gonna love when you get punched in the face." One of the other players gave out a whoa as he'd essentially threatened me with violence. And this is all over a video game because he lost once. I guess I was feeling annoyed since he was being dismissive of me and had basically said I deserved to get punched in the face. I responded by saying, "You get annoyed with us for cursing, and you basically said you want me to get punched." Mark then starts on some lecture about how cursing is against God, when the same guy who had given the whoa before just said, "Mark, please shut the F up." And at this point, I couldn't help it. I laughed my butt off. Mark just sat there kinda unable to say anything. The guy later told me that he got a lecture from Mark for cursing, but said that it was well worth it. Mark had a bevy of other entitled moments as well. He would enter people's rooms without asking and use their stuff. He also shamed a friend of mine because I was able to get close to her, but he wasn't, and several other instances of refusing to pay people back. But now I want to talk about Jake. This one is more secondhand, but I trust the sources. Jake wasn't as religious at the time. While I was back home for a weekend, he apparently decided to go out drinking. Now, being a religious school, this was a big no-no. He'd actually get into trouble for this before, but he felt it was a stupid rule, so he wasn't going to follow it. And I should also note that he was underage for where we lived at the time. Anyways, he came into the common area blitzed. Two of my friends were watching a film, and he just kind of sat down, tossing his keys onto the table. After a bit, he started to vomit, and they fetched the RA on duty at the time. This particular RA was a really good guy, the kind of person who'd go out of his way to make sure everyone was doing well and help out with any issues. When he saw Jake, he asked if he needed any help or water or anything else like that, but Jake wasn't having it though. He told everybody to F off and that he was leaving, and then he went for his keys. Now, the RA likely would have let the drinking slip since he was more concerned for his well-being, but he wasn't about to let someone drink and drive. So when he reached out to grab the keys, Jake punched him across the face. Now, I don't have many details about what happened after that, but I got a call letting me know my roommate was being kicked out of the school and that he was not permitted to come on campus anymore. This also actually led to a lot of problems for me, since they suspected I knew and was hiding it. I told them I avoided being in that room as much as possible, which friends and the library staff confirmed, but it did cost me becoming an RA since the higher-ups still weren't sure about me. Fortunately, Mark had to leave school after that year because his parents were not going to fund him and his poor grades, and Jake was banned from campus. Mark, who had wanted to become a minister, thankfully never was appointed to any church leadership. And for Jake, it actually is kind of a sad story, as he spiraled and ended up homeless for a long time, and he's now every bit the religious zealot that Mark was. After that, things were much better for me. I found my people on campus, mostly in my major, as well as others who took Love Thy Neighbor much more seriously. After graduating, I ended up working overseas, deconverting and getting help I need for my mental health disorders, and finding some of the best friends I've ever known. And this wouldn't be my last encounter with an entitled bully, but I'm better and I'm handling it now. All this to say is that if you're planning to attend a small religious college, well, maybe consider some alternatives. I'm not saying religion is bad, but if my experience is any indication, your faith is better served elsewhere. Wow, this is crazy to me. I've never been to a religious school, but a lot of my friends that I talk to basically say, yeah, this is kind of their experience. And that sucks. That really sucks because you would expect some kind of like higher standard of living. And yet here you have guys that are literally trying to be like, oh yeah, this is God's plan for me. Meanwhile, they're doing the exact opposite of what's expected of them. So yeah, to the original poster, I'm so sorry you went through that, and I'm sorry that you had to see this level of hypocrisy, because the way these guys treated you was completely out of line. My entitled sister tries to steal money out of my trust fund by calling them up, pretending to be me, all in some weird attempt to transfer money into her account. And right now, I'm honestly so shocked and disgusted by her actions that right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old female and my family is a little messed up. I have essentially had 5 parents and 3 different groups of siblings. So yeah, it's a bit much. As a child, I was living in the United States with my adoptive parents, and a lot of stuff went down that wasn't great. So I moved back to the United Kingdom when I was 9 years old. I had a lot of trauma and the beginnings of a rather serious substance problem, and so my dad in the United States set up a trust for me before he passed away so that anything mental health related was paid for and I didn't have to stress about being able to sort myself out as I got older. And it has been rather handy over the last 30 years, paying for a home when I was a teenager, as well as therapy and rehab. Basically anything needed to help me not pass away. At some point in my teenage years, I made contact with my biological parents and their other kids, and I was somewhat welcomed back into the fold. Now, some of my full siblings had issue with this, which is fair enough, and it was a big change to everyone's lives. My little sister apparently found it particularly hard, and so we've never got along and have been no contact for almost a decade. This has become particularly apparent in the recent weeks after she contacted the solicitors who are in control of the trust, pretending to be me from a rehab facility in the United States. Apparently, she sent them an invoice for a 3-month stay, requesting payment to the bank account of a friend of hers in the United States. The first I heard about this was a phone call from said solicitors offering me their commiseration that I was due to enter the facility, wishing me luck and double-checking the details. And when I heard this, I was absolutely livid, as I realized right then and there that I was being scammed. This is tens of thousands of pounds that she's tried to steal from me, money that she has absolutely no right to. She never met my adoptive parents, she's not owed any money from them, and she's lived a perfectly normal life with both of her parents, her other siblings, going on holidays, having her university paid for, and never having any real big dramas. And she thinks that she can just take them from me because she wants to buy a house, and thinks that I should help her out because I ruined her childhood. Except she can't even ask me about it, and instead she has to try and steal it from me. I have no idea what to do about this, because if I go to the police, then I'll create even more drama in the family that I really could do without, and I feel like that's exactly what she wants. Our parents will side with her and she knows it. I don't want to give her the satisfaction, but I'm just so mad that she chose this specific way to try and take what's not hers. It feels like such a low blow. What should I do? Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine running into this scenario because this is crazy. Bro, you're telling me this lady literally was like, oh yeah, I'm the original poster. I'm going back to rehab. Send me money to the United States. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? That is crazy. Thank goodness these people had the right mind to call you and be like, oh, okay, we just want to work out the details, because this is crazy. This is some criminal level stuff. And the fact that she tried to steal your trust fund and be like, okay, I'm gonna get this out of you, all because you allegedly ruined her childhood, like that is some crazy levels of weird. I just can't even describe it. And also, if she really thinks that you ruined her childhood, why would she go back to you to try and steal from you? That literally solves nothing. If anything, it's just gonna get her in hot water. Like, why on earth would she willingly do that to herself? So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would stay no contact with that lady, because clearly she's a disgruntled adult who has no way of coping with her current problems. Because in my opinion, what she tried to do is incredibly criminal. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover outrageous costs for my future sister-in-law's bridal shower after I was told that I would have to foot the bill, as well as all the other bridesmaids that are involved? And with the cost of this event going up further and further than I expected, I'm now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm going to be a bridesmaid in my fiance's older sister's wedding, which is set for October of 2025. While I'm excited to be part of her big day, I've been a bridesmaid before and I know how expensive it can be. The costs for this wedding are piling up up quickly. I've already paid $300 for the bridesmaid dress, the required shoes, and $1,000 for the destination bachelorette trip. Initially, we were told there was no pressure to attend, but her mom later said that it was awful, that some bridesmaids were considering skipping due to the cost, so I definitely felt pressured to go. After we booked the trip, the maid of honor informed us that we would also be covering all of the bride's costs during the trip, namely the food, the drinks, or literally anything else. This was never discussed beforehand and added another unexpected expense on top of an already expensive trip. My future mother-in-law mentioned that as a bridesmaid, I'm expected to help pay for the bridal shower. She said she Googled it and found that the bridesmaids are responsible for the costs and not her as the mother of the bride. In all of the weddings I've been a part of, the bridal shower costs were primarily covered by family or a family friend who volunteered to host at their home, and the bridesmaids usually help with smaller things like games and decorations. I don't mind contributing to the bridal shower, but it needs to be within reason. With everything else I've already paid for, it's becoming unmanageable, especially since I'm trying to save for my own wedding, which is planned for mid-2026. My future sister-in-law is expecting a full catered bridal shower with elaborate decor, which feels unrealistic for a group of bridesmaids to fund. It also seems like she's picking things that aren't even within her budget and assuming others will cover the difference. So seriously, am I the jerk for wanting to set boundaries around the bridal shower cost, especially when it feels like at every turn, an unexpected expense comes up without any discussion? And trust me, I know that weddings are expensive, especially as I'm currently planning one out myself. But how much is too much to ask your bridesmaids to pay? In previous weddings I was a bridesmaid in, I would spend about a little over $1,000 in total. But in this case, that's not even covering the bachelorette trip. I do want to make this whole thing special for her, but it's just starting to get very costly, and I know the other bridesmaids are feeling the pressure too. We are all so young and we're just starting out our careers. So would I be the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I don't think you would be the jerk here because I have never heard of anybody covering the cost of the wedding other than the parents or like the immediate family. Since when does the bridesmaid have to cover everything? That is so foreign to me. I've literally never heard of that. And it kind of makes me think that the mother-in-law is just straight up lying and she's trying to save costs by being like, oh no, that's coming out of your pocket. And they really seem like they're trying to take advantage of you. And just look at this mother-in-law's logic. Okay, so she saw it on Google. It's like, okay, cool. What is that supposed to mean? Why are we allowing Google to dictate who is and is not paying for this stupid wedding? Because in my opinion, whoever hosts or plans the bridal shower, they're the ones that need to pay. Because if the bridesmaids are the ones that are funding it, then they get to call the shots on how much they're gonna spend. Not just be handed a bill and be like, okay, you need to pay this. This is your obligation. This is what Google says. Like, this is all so ridiculous in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk here. I think you're absolutely being taken advantage of. And I think setting some clear expectations, regardless of how pissed off they might get, in my opinion, is super important in this scenario. My classmates from 5th grade ended up getting married together, all because of a prank that I played on them when we were kids. And even now, I'm honestly amazed by the way I played Cupid without even realizing it, as they are now a happy family with a kid. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was in primary school, I was a bit of a chaotic little gremlin. I had this thing that I would do where I'd write fake love notes to girls, pretending they were from the sweatiest, stinkiest, most questionable guys in class. Now, why, you might ask? I did this purely out of pettiness, and it was my twisted way of getting back at girls I didn't like. There was this one girl, let's call her Wilma for the sake of the story, and I absolutely could not stand her. She was my mortal enemy in the 5th grade for reasons I can't even remember now. And then there was Alex, the unfortunate sweaty guy of the class. Alex smelled like sour milk that had been left out in the sun, and he was a little on the chubby side. And so, obviously, I decided they were the perfect victims for my master prank. I carefully crafted a love note in Alex's handwriting, which was basically just a series of crooked chicken scratches. And the note said something like, "Hi Wilma, I like you. Do you want to date me? From Alex." I slipped it into her bag during lunch, thinking this was going to be the most epic prank of all time. After lunch, Wilma found the note and went absolutely bananas. She was showing it to everybody, saying stuff like, "Oh my god, Alex likes me." I tried to play it cool and ask her what it said, and all she said was, "None of your business." Well, here's where it gets wild. Alex didn't even deny it. He just stood there, probably sweating even more than usual, and said something like, "Yeah, maybe I do," meaning that my brilliant prank totally backfired because not long after, Wilma and Alex started hanging out during lunch. They would sit together, giggling and sharing sandwiches, while I sat there stewing in my own failure. Fast forward to years later, and I was bored and stalking Wilma's social media, and guess what? She freaking married him. They have a kid together and everything, all because of me. I mean, I played Cupid without even meaning to. Sometimes I'd lie awake at night, wondering if I should send them an anonymous message, saying something like, "Hey, congrats on the family. By the way, your whole relationship started as a petty prank, so you're welcome." But either way, this whole whole scenario is kind of wild. Okay, this might be the first time where I can confidently say that the original poster is the bully of this story. Like seriously, what is going on right now? This guy's trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, they have a family because of me. And it's like, yeah, and you probably have no one because of you as well. Like for starters, why in the world would you treat people like this? You're already making fun of the quiet fat kid in the corner, and you decide to pair him up with a girl that you don't like for some reason that you can't even remember. And in fact, the original poster goes on to clarify that they actually had a crush on this girl. So basically, you tried to bully the quiet kid and get back at a girl that clearly did not like you. And then here you are trying to be like, wow, they have a family because of me. I didn't mean to play Cupid. I should really message them. And it's like, dude, this happened back in 5th grade, and you're still bragging about that as some kind of accomplishment? First of all, don't ever message those people ever again. But also, my man, it's time to grow up and move on. If some of your greatest accomplishments are literally something you did in 5th grade, then you need to get out there and live life more, because it really doesn't sound like you have grown up at all. And in the end, I think you're still that same bully from 5th grade, looking on as everybody else has moved on and you're basically left in the dust. An entitled jerk unsuccessfully tried to steal my airline window seat, refusing to move and literally looking at me as if I'm the crazy one. But thankfully, I stood up for myself and I didn't take his garbage, forcing him in his shame to move over so that I could take my seat. And it honestly felt so good to watch his face drop as he realized he was not going to win this interaction. Here's what happened. Okay, so while I was boarding my flight, I realized that some entitled idiot who had earlier pushed past other passengers to board first in priority group 1 was now sitting in my window seat. When I got to my row, I pointed and politely told him that he was in my seat. But he just looked at me and said, "Oh, what seat are you supposed to be in?" I told him, well, it's 11F, the window seat you're sitting in. I then proceeded to load my luggage into the overhead bin, and as I did so, the other guy in the aisle seat got up to let me move over to my seat, but guess what? This entitled idiot wouldn't budge. This guy just watched me load my stuff overhead, hoping that I would forget or something like that, and finally just accept his middle seat, which guess what? Is his seat. For context, I'm a 5'11" female, and I would never book a middle seat and risk being wedged between two people my size or larger. So after I finished loading my stuff, I just waited patiently for him to start unbuckling himself, collect his crap from under the seat, and then finally move. A couple other people also repeated to him that he was in the wrong seat, as I'm guessing they assumed that he was deaf, even though he wasn't. Well, there was no movement from this idiot, so I continued to wait in the aisle, resulting in a very satisfying staring contest that lasted at least 20 seconds before he finally started to pretend to fumble in his pockets for his boarding pass. I finally told him that we were all happy to hold up the plane and wait for him to move so I could get seated in the seat that I was clearly assigned on my boarding pass. And it honestly felt so good to stand up for myself, because there was no way I was gonna let this entitled jerk get his way. Oh, I love this for so many reasons, because seriously, I can't imagine someone having the guts to be like, oh no, I'm taking this seat. This is where I'm supposed to sit. And then just sitting there obnoxiously expecting you to roll over and just be like, okay, you can have it, no worries. Like, this is really not a hard concept. When you get on an airplane, you have a seat that you're supposed to go to. And I don't care if you picked that seat or if the airline picked it for you. Congratulations, that's where you're sitting for the next few hours. So for anybody to realistically in today's day and age sit there and be like, well, I want to sit here instead. It's like, no man, you're not doing that. Get out of my seat that I probably paid more for and let me sit down. So seriously, I'm really glad that you stood up for yourself, because people like this absolutely deserve to be shut down. Am I the jerk for asking someone to move out of my way in front of the disabled toilet, as they were literally preventing me from going to the bathroom, as I have a medical problem where I need to go to the bathroom, otherwise I'm in a lot of pain? Because right now I'm worried that I responded very rudely, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is something that I've been ruminating on for a while. I went to a show on the weekend. I'm disabled, so rarely do I go to these things. And usually I get an aisle seat so I can go to the bathroom easily. Without oversharing, I have to frequently go to the bathroom, and if I don't, it can be very painful. I have adenomyosis, as well as a neurological disorder. At this show, tickets sold out quickly, and my friend booked them and said there wasn't a way to get to an aisle, so I just had to hold on. I went before and I would go at intermission, but it was completely worth it as I had a great time. At halftime, I was very uncomfortable and very sore, so I got up and I hurried to the bathroom. I assumed two people standing outside the bathroom were just leaning on the wall, so I walked past them with my radar key on hand. They then told me that they were in queue, so I waited, with one of them being very drunk. They went in together as they were a pair, and I waited outside. While I waited, I could smell cigarette smoke as I have a strong sense of smell. They took a while in the bathroom, not that I'm judging, and it probably felt longer as I was in agony at this point and rather grumpy. So when they came out, they were taking a while. One of them was corralling the drunk person, and it was taking forever. So I said to them, "Excuse me, I can't hold my bladder." They then immediately got angry with me and said, "Well, neither can I. You're being so rude." But I responded by saying, "That's nice. Can I go pee now?" And this is all because they were standing in my way, and at this point, I'm doubled over. Adenomyosis is not comfortable at the best of times, and I can get very snappy when I'm sore. Well, eventually I get in, I sort myself out in the bathroom that stinks of cigarettes, and then I get back into the auditorium. When I pass them, they get upset with me again, saying how I was really rude and that I should be more patient. But I explained to them that I was in a lot of pain, and I apologized for snapping. They explained they also had issues and assumed that I was being rude as their illness wasn't visible. But still, am I the jerk? Is there not a jerk in this situation? Honestly, I don't know. But I've been really stuck in overthinking it. On one hand, it feels like a big misunderstanding, but on the other hand, it comes to me when I'm relaxing and it just makes me cringe. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. It honestly seems like there was some major miscommunication in the heat of the moment, and I think moving on from this will really be the best option, because at the end of the day, you will literally never see these people again. And whether or not they understand where you're coming from is honestly something I would not try to focus on. My girlfriend doesn't drive, and she doesn't have a driver's license. And now, after driving her around for the 6 years that we've been together, I'm honestly at my breaking point, and I really feel worn down, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years. She doesn't have a driver's license, and while it didn't bother me at first, it has been weighing on me more lately. We met in college, and back then, she took the bus everywhere, and I admired her for that because it showed resourcefulness, and I was inspired by her work ethic, balancing a full-time school schedule and a job. It was one of the things that drew me to her. When we started dating, I became her personal driver, taking her to school, work, and home. At the time, I didn't mind. However, as the years have gone by, I feel like the dynamic has shifted, and I'm starting to feel the strain. During our second year together, I suggested that she learn to drive. She seemed excited at first, but as time went on, the plans to practice driving would get postponed due to finals or other stressors. Eventually, she became upset when I brought it up, saying it added to her stress. Well, I respected her feelings and dropped the topic until after college. She graduated in 2023, while I graduated in 2022, and I started working full-time shortly after that. Over the next 6 months, I suggested driving lessons again, but the conversation led to her becoming upset. I decided to focus on supporting her and didn't push the issues any further. However, I started feeling burnt out from driving her everywhere, especially since she didn't have a job or taking any steps towards driving. At the start of 2024, she seemed more motivated. She agreed to practice driving, and we had made plans to practice on the weekends. While the first few weekends went well, I noticed a lack of follow-through on her end. If I didn't wake up, she wouldn't call or text me as we had agreed, and on the days I did wake up, she sometimes wouldn't respond. This pattern made me feel like I was putting in more effort than she was. In June, she finally got a job, but works an unusual schedule from Saturday to Wednesday, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And since she doesn't drive, I have to take her to work. This requires waking up early on weekends and driving long distances during the week, about 80 miles a day, including the trips to my job and back. And by the time I get home, I'm exhausted and barely have time for myself. I feel like my personal time has disappeared. I'd like to work out after work, take a mixology class, or even just sleep in on the weekends. However, my responsibilities with her and sometimes her family make it hard to prioritize myself. I'm not sure how to address this without feeling hurt or blamed. I miss the hardworking and independent person I first met, and I want to find a way to communicate my feelings effectively while also finding a balance. How can I navigate this situation and express my needs without causing unnecessary conflict? What should I do? Okay, honestly, in my opinion, the fact that she is 26 years old and doesn't have a driver's license or has any aspirations to actively get one is unacceptable and not fair for you. You said it yourself, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is wearing you down, and you literally just can't do anything else. Like, I know if I was in that situation, I would be incredibly pissed off and very stressed out. Because seriously, you are stuck driving her everywhere. You somehow became her personal chauffeur, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. So I can say, in my opinion, this really would be a deal breaker after a while, especially after 6 years and she still hasn't taken any time to get this done. So hopefully this works out, because honestly, this sounds incredibly obnoxious. My entitled grandma almost makes me walk home instead of just driving me over there, all because she was really impressed by the way she parked in a parallel parking spot. And I'm honestly still dumbfounded by this level of idiocracy that I seriously hope I don't deal with her in this way ever again. Here's what happened. So during my freshman year of college last year, my grandma agreed to pick me up from school for spring break and take me out to dinner. I was pretty happy because her and my grandfather had been in Florida for months, and I hadn't seen them in a while. First of all, she never reached out to me directly, quickly, and I found out she was picking me up from my mom. I was 19 at the time, I wasn't home, and very much had a phone, so I don't know why she was using my mom as a middleman. So I get packed up and I'm sitting in my dorm waiting for her. Now, this is very important to the story. One of the things I was bringing with me was my betta fish, since I was going to be gone for over a week. I get a call from my dad, and he tells me that my grandma got in a car accident. No one was hurt, but apparently her tire popped. I will also add that she said her tire popped because the guy had something sticking off of his car, but honestly, it kind of seemed like she hit the guy. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I had to be out of the dorm by 7, but I understood if she couldn't get me. She ends up leaving her car with AAA and comes to get me in my mom's car. I put all my stuff in the back, and I'm sitting in the front seat with her with my fish in a container in my lap. We then get to the restaurant, which is a block away from my house, and we park in front. Her car had been fixed and parked across the street from where we were. And then one of the weirdest conversations I've ever experienced happened right in front of me, and I'm honestly still scratching my head over this one. She says to me, "Okay, is there anything you need to bring with you tonight?" Now, when she said this, I'm immediately confused. I had all of my clothing, my laptop, and a live animal swimming around in my lap. In fact, I had a birthday party to go to the next day. So I say to her, well, I need my clothes. And then she says to me, "Okay, then you're gonna have to move it to my car right now because I'm not driving you home in your mom's car after dinner." When she said this, my eye twitched. At this point, I am beyond confused. My mom was at work at the restaurant we were going to. She wouldn't be home until midnight, which means anything I left in that car, I would not have access until midnight. The restaurant was a block away from my house. So I ask her, why can't I just drop my stuff off there and go back? She looks at me and says, "I did a really good job parking." At this point, I kind of nervously laugh because it's like, what are you talking about? And then I paused to wait for her to laugh too, but she didn't. After a long silence, she gets out of the car and tells me to start getting my stuff. I'm holding a poor betta fish in my hands, and I'm mentally preparing to leave her in the car in 30-degree weather for over an hour at the demand of this obstinate retiree, when suddenly she looks down and goes, "No, my car's not that straight. We can go to your house and drop off your stuff there." So after all that, we ended up going to my house anyways. And at this point, I'm fuming for the rest of the night. When I got home, I told my parents what happened, and they were both also extremely confused. Just a whole lot of confusion across the board, all because of my grandmother and this stupid parking spot. It is always amazing to me that people can be so self-centered that they literally miss everything else that's going on around them. Like they are so wrapped up in their own personal accomplishments or stuff they have going on, where they're like, "Wow, I did a good job parallel parking." But then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the person that you drove there, they've got a living animal and all their crap with them. Do you really expect them to leave it in this freezing cold car while you guys go into a restaurant to eat? Not to mention the fact that the house is literally a block away. Like, what is going on right now?" So yeah, your grandma was completely wrong for acting like that and for even pretending like she was gonna make you walk to the house. Because I know if I was in that situation, I would be incredibly annoyed. My entitled sister demands that I give her a $10,000 loan so that she can have her dream wedding exactly as she wants it. But now that I've told her no and that I don't have that kind of money laying around, she's turned the entire family against me, as she has them somehow convinced that I'm the selfish one and not her. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm a 28-year-old male and I have a 26-year-old sister who is getting married in a few months. We've always had a bit of a rocky relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, always getting what she wanted, and I often felt like my needs and accomplishments were overlooked in comparison. This became even more apparent when we both started getting older, and I noticed that whenever she had a problem or wanted something, it was always expected that I'd be there to support her, even when it was inconvenient for me. Well, now she's planning this huge wedding, like really extravagant. She's talking about a destination wedding, fancy venues, and a designer dress, the whole works. She's already racked up a huge bill, and a couple of weeks ago, she came to me asking for a loan of $10,000 just to help cover some of the cost. She mentioned how my other sibling, who by the way has a lot more money than I do, had already agreed to contribute, and it's just expected that I'll do the same. Now, here's the thing. I don't have that kind of money lying around, and I've been working hard to pay off student loans and save for my own future. I didn't feel comfortable dipping into my savings for something that I feel is frankly a bit excessive. I politely told her that I couldn't afford it, but she became really upset and said that family helps each other out, and that I should be there for her, especially since she helped me when I was in a tough spot a couple of years ago. And for reference, I had a health issue that set me back financially. Now, I tried to explain that while I appreciated her past help, I am not in a position to help with her wedding, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect me to give such a large sum. She then got really angry and started telling the rest of the family that I was being selfish and unsupportive, and now most of my relatives are siding with her, saying I should just make it work for the family. I'm honestly feeling really conflicted. I know it's her big day, but I don't think I should have to sacrifice my financial stability for it. So truly, am I the jerk for refusing to help pay for the wedding? Because right now I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has a lot of updates they want to share. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to thank everyone for your feedback on my initial post. I've been reading through all the comments and I'm trying to take in the advice and perspectives. I honestly didn't expect the response to be so overwhelming, but it's been really helpful in sorting through my own feelings about this situation. I wanted to share an update since things have progressed since I posted. After I turned down my sister's request for the $10,000 loan, things did not go well. She was furious, and as I mentioned before, she told the rest of the family that I was being selfish and unsupportive. At first, it was mostly just her and a couple of other relatives siding with her, but the situation quickly escalated. My mom, in particular, has been really pressuring me to just help out because family sticks together and it's her big day. It's been really uncomfortable, and honestly, the guilt tripping has been non-stop. But I still stand by my decision though. I'm not in a position to hand over that kind of money, and I'm really focused on my own financial stability. I've been working hard to pay off debt and save up for my own future goals. That being said, I did offer a compromise. I told her I could contribute in a more reasonable way, like helping with smaller expenses like maybe the decorations, rather than giving her a huge loan. But she was not happy with this and said it wasn't enough. The situation with the family has gotten tense. Some of my relatives, especially on my dad's side, are more understanding of my position, but a lot of others are still on my sister's side. There's been a fair amount of pressure to step up and support her, but I'm honestly holding firm. I also realized that I have some deeper feelings of resentment toward my sister that I had not fully processed yet. Growing up, it always felt like she was the golden child, and I was the one who had to work harder for everything. So the whole situation has just been a reminder of that dynamic. I guess I'm still processing some of that old tension, and it's making the situation feel even more complicated. But in the end, I've decided that I'm not going to let guilt or family pressure dictate my choices. I can't afford the loan that she's asking for, and I don't think it's fair to expect me to compromise my financial goals for her wedding. I've tried to be clear with her, but at this point, I'm just trying to navigate things with as much peace as possible. Okay, honestly, good for you for sticking to what you think is right and refusing to give in to this kind of demand. Anyone, and I mean anyone, trying to be like, wow, you need to give $10,000 to your sister. It's the right thing to do. This is what family does. Like seriously, what are you talking about? The most I would be willing to give is maybe $1,000, if that. But $10,000, that is a huge amount of money. And for the entire family to be like, wow, why can't you just do that? We don't care that you don't have that money. You need to go into debt so that your sister can be happy. Like seriously, that's what they're saying right now. They would rather you have some kind of like financial strain instead of, I don't know, actually making ends meet. Like this whole argument is so irrational, it's not even funny. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing this stupid demand, because your sister and your entire family who are supporting her, in my opinion, are incredibly selfish and very entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job is disorganized and chaotic, as I'm trying to find my way through this serving job at a restaurant that honestly has no organization, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things off, I am so frustrated and pissed off that I have no one to vent to that would even begin to understand. For starters, I recently stepped down from managing and I'm now back to serving. And this is a large chain that's just a step above Olive Garden. And guys, it's a joke. Tables aren't pre-bussed ever, and then the tables just sit there unless a manager or myself busses them and turns them. Servers just let plates and glasses stack up and then leave them on the table. Also, no servers are using kitchen words like behind, sharp, corner, etc. No one's helping each other out, and no one's filling the ice or running clean plates from the back or filling peppers and vinegars before service. The bartender can't make drinks in a timely fashion. I'm talking 20 minutes to get a bar drink if it's not just a straight pour, and even then it's that long. There's also a list of items from both the bar and the kitchen on the 86 list, and when we run out of something, it's not communicated to the staff. So I'll have a table with calamari and then fire the app. When I go to the kitchen to ask where my app is, I'm told with a shrug, oh, we're out of it. And now I have to go back and tell them that we're out almost 20 minutes later. The guy in the dish pit has literally thrown dishes at me when we still have 30 to 60 minutes of service left, and he refuses to wash any more dishes. We're supposed to just deal with it and stack them somewhere else until he closes the pit and leaves. And then the same freaking guy who does the least amount of work always gets the best section and the best tables. He cherry picks his tables and just moseys along, still not pre-bussing or bussing his own tables. And I'm honestly so over it. I had a 12 top last night and was immediately sat a 6-top and a 2-top, and I thought to myself, this is no big deal, or rather it would have been no big deal if I had a team to work with. Their bar drinks took so long, and their food came out looking like garbage for presentation. I take orders and put them in according to seats, so I don't have to auction food, but even the managers just shouted out. Then, because the kitchen staff doesn't communicate, we had simple pasta dishes placed in Expo way before steaks were even done, so now half the food is old and cold. Oh, and don't even get me started on Expo. There is no method to the madness, and things just sit up there. People will just take things that they think are theirs, while other orders are left sitting there, because now we've got to wait for an item to be remade while the rest of the food is sitting there in an open Expo where customers can clearly see it. I can work with many different mistakes, but when they happen all at once and all at the same time, I kind of lose it. I was also left nothing on a $400 bill due to things that were out of my control. There's only so much banter and comps one can do, because my God, things have definitely changed since the last time I was serving. Wow, that situation sucks. I can't stand having coworkers like that, especially in a restaurant. Like, my God, everybody needs to do their job for things to run smoothly, and when people are being lazy and not doing their share of what they need to do, it literally screws up the entire night, because pretty soon if there's no organization, then everything's behind and everybody else is gonna suffer, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. You don't deserve that. That honestly is so annoying. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be looking for another job. There is no way I would ever want to put up with that, because having coworkers like that is truly obnoxious. Am I the jerk as the maid of honor for asking the bride of a wedding to give the total cost expected from each bridesmaid? Because right now everything's been very ambiguous, and yet still the cost of this wedding is slowly adding up, because at this point I'm worried that people won't be able to afford anything for this wedding. Okay, so I am the maid of honor for a friend getting married. She is pretty young at the age of 24, and so are the bridesmaids. Most of us are in the broke postgraduate mindset, except for one of the bridesmaids, who is about 10 years older, and another who is still a student. When asking us to be in the wedding party, the bride made it clear that she expected bridesmaids to pay for our dresses, alterations, and to be present for the rehearsal and the wedding. She offered to either pay for makeup or hair for me, as I was the maid of honor, but said the bridesmaids can pay extra to have those done the day of the event. For the bachelorette, she was clear about what she wanted, which was a beach house in Rhode Island. We are splitting the cost for the rental, which is about $300 each, and I made a budget of about $250 for groceries, split amongst 5 of us for the 2 days. And this does not include going out to a bar or dinner during that trip, which I estimate would be an additional $75 per person. While it is expensive, I really do want this weekend to be lots of fun, and I think we can keep it on the cheaper side if we're smart about our groceries and anything else. Now, there was no budget going in, so I've been figuring out how to do a more cost-efficient but fun event, and the costs are definitely adding up. However, with the bridal shower, there is again no budget. I am hosting, and the bride sent over a list of about 30 people who will be attending. I have no idea what the budget is for this event, and I'm having difficulty laying out the run of the food and the events and the decorations, as well as the party gifts for everybody. The other bridesmaids have expressed concern about the surmounting cost of everything, and I honestly do agree. Things are adding up from the initial expectation of paying for the dress and the alterations. So I spoke with the bride about this, and she said that she thought that we could just come up with the most cost-effective way to manage these events. But I countered and said that it would be easiest for the bridesmaids to understand the total cost that they were expected to incur for the wedding, including dresses, alterations, bridal shower, bachelorette, and any incidentals. I politely argued that we need to have an idea of what's expected of us, and it's not on us to create and manage the budget for her wedding. We're all happy to contribute and all want this to be fun and successful. She has said that it's normal for bridesmaids to pay a lot for weddings, but I reminded her that we are all on the younger side, and that's something to be mindful of. I have been trying to mitigate any tensions between the bridesmaid and the bride, just to keep the stress off of her and handle the conversations with the bridesmaids. I asked for a clear spreadsheet of our expected expenses so I can speak with the bridesmaids and make a plan. And with the wedding 5 months away, I think this is really important. So am I the jerk for arguing with the bride about this? Is it normal for bridesmaids to not know what's expected of them? I don't know much about weddings or being the maid of honor, and I want her to have an amazing wedding without breaking the bank for the other ladies. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think what you're doing is totally reasonable, and I think it's really important to set some kind of expectation. So for the bride to be like, okay, this is what I want, and then never giving any kind of financial expectation from everybody involved, that's just annoying, and that's only going to cause conflict. So no, you're not the jerk for trying to figure something out, because I think what you're asking, in my opinion, is completely reasonable. Am I the jerk for asking my roommate to shop more frequently, all because there's no space in the freezer for other people to use, because now they're being incredibly annoying, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 19-year-old female in college, living with 4 other roommates, and we all pretty much eat microwave food that goes in our freezer. Now we have a very small freezer, and for the first half of the year, it wasn't that bad to fit stuff in it, because our 4th roommate wasn't really using it and we all shopped lightly. Recently though, I've noticed that our freezer is literally packed to the point that I can't even close it, and I've noticed that it's food that they all kept in there for weeks without eating it. I have exactly one thing in there, and it barely takes up any room. For perspective, said roommate just went out and bought food for the next 2 weeks, literally taking up all of the space. I texted the group chat and asked them to reorganize and consider other people's space when shopping for groceries, and for them to eat them within the next week. My roommate said, "I'll eat half of my stuff in the next week," and then just brushed off my request and just said that it'll be hard to fit stuff no matter what because it's a small space for 4 people. That felt very dismissive and like she's refusing to come up with a solution that's fair for everybody. So I texted back and asked point blank if she would shop for groceries for the next week instead of 2 weeks from now on. She then sent back a pretty angry sounding text saying that she shops when she wants to and doesn't feel like going to the same store every week. And at this point, I have no idea what to do. I really want space for the freezer. I talked to my pops about this and he said either you buy fresh food or put your foot down with them because they're being selfish. I'm going to try and buy fresh food to put elsewhere, but it's hard for me to eat them before they expire so quickly. Being a college student, I really just want quick, easy meals. So did I push it too far? Am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly so frustrated. No, of course you're not being the jerk. These people are being unreasonable. They're taking up the entire freezer space and it's leaving you on the lurch and it's leaving you screwed out of any space at all. Like, how is that fair for you? They seriously are shopping for 2 weeks and they're trying to be like, well, I don't want to go to the same store all the time. And it's like, dude, you're taking up all the room. And it really would not be fair for you to buy your own like fridge and freezer, like some kind of mini fridge for you to keep all your stuff cold, because that sucks. That really is not something you should have to do. So the fact that they want to try and be like, well, I'm just not going to make any room for you, that is so unfair and I would not put up with that for a second. So truly, I don't blame you for speaking up because the way this roommate's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly selfish. Am I the jerk for finding my neighbor over a used diaper in our condo driveway, as I am absolutely sure that she's the one that left it there, thus violating our HOA guidelines? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live in a 4-unit condo building and I own half of it. My neighbor moved in about a year ago and recently had a baby. And this is where the situation comes into play. A used diaper ended up in our shared driveway. Since no one else in the building has kids or wears diapers, you know, since we're all over the age of 30 except for her baby, I messaged her to ask her to remove it. On the first day, I sent her a polite message asking if she could remove the diaper, but she denied it was hers and told me to prove it. On the second day, still nothing changed. So I followed up with a notice reminding her of the building's bylaws and rules regarding common areas. And I also mentioned that non-compliance could lead to fines. On the third day, there was still no action. So I sent her a fine notice via PDF explaining that all fines would be absolved if the diaper was removed. And this led to the following text exchange. I sent the PDF with a notice and I said, please see above. Refer to bylaws for any questions about the deadline. She responded by saying, well, I'll just be ignoring that. So you pretend that I have to pick up a dirty diaper that you are just assuming is mine, with no evidence, by the way, and I would be leaving a newborn inside my house with no supervision just to do what you want to do. You definitely don't have any common sense. I responded by saying, please just see the notice and consequences of not complying. She said back to me, well, you have no emotional empathy at all. You're the worst person that I know. You don't care about other situations. You don't even think that I'm just by myself with a newborn with postpartum depression. You just care about your stupid rules. I responded back by saying, I understand that you're going through a lot, but I need to set clear boundaries as described in the bylaws. The expectations outlined in the notice apply to everyone and must be fulfilled. Now, to add some context, I lug the trash bins to the curb for the whole building every week without complaint, even when they're overfilled. If I go out of town, no one else will do it, and the bins are overflowing when I return. So I don't think it's unreasonable to expect her to clean up after her baby, especially in shared spaces. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of here. It's not my job to remove her baby's waste from the common areas. I sympathize with her situation as a new mom, but I don't feel like that excuse leaving a dirty diaper in the driveway or refusing to address it. I also feel like she's deflecting responsibility by making it about empathy rather than the diaper. So seriously, am I the jerk for issuing a fine over this? I genuinely feel I've been reasonable, but honestly, I'm kind of second guessing myself. What should I do? do? Okay, I don't think you're totally the jerk, but I think in the future you need definitive proof that she's the one leaving a diaper in the driveway. Because from the sounds of it, you don't really have anything other than like making some kind of assumption. What if someone dropped that off as they were driving by or something like that? Or maybe like a raccoon dragged that out of the trash from another neighbor and brought it to that driveway. I know you're making the assumption that yes, this is the diaper of this lady's kid, but also you don't have like video evidence or anything like that. So there might be a situation where it's like, okay, maybe this lady is telling the truth, even if she's being rude about it. But for the record, just so we're all clear, I think she's absolutely lying. I think that diaper absolutely belonged to her kid, and she could take 2 seconds to put her kid in the crib, run out there, pick it up, and throw it away properly, and it really would be no problem, and she would avoid a fine. But without some kind of like definitive, yes, it was you kind of proof, like video evidence or picture evidence, for me, it just wouldn't be enough to justify that kind of fine to be placed upon them. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for trying to issue a fine, but also in the future, maybe set up some kind of way so you can get absolute proof that she's the one that did it, especially if this happens in the future. Am I the jerk for refusing to move for my wife's job promotion, all while we're in the middle of getting divorced? Because right now she is very pissed off and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I are currently going through a divorce, and together we have 3-year-old twins. We also both work remotely. My employer is local, but I convinced them to let me work remotely full-time, while my wife works remotely for an organization based in New Jersey. A few years ago, we intentionally pursued careers that would allow us to work from home, just so we could make childcare just a bit easier. My wife travels for work several days each month, sometimes for a week or more, and during those times, I take care of the kids on my own. I have no issue with this, and I'm happy to step in as the primary caregiver when needed. Recently, my wife informed me that she has an opportunity for a promotion, but it requires us to relocate to either New Jersey or Pennsylvania. We currently live in Texas, where much of our support system is based. My parents, who live nearby, have been a huge help, often babysitting the kids overnight so that my wife and I could travel for leisure. Most of our friends are here, and I'm very close to my family while my wife isn't as close to hers. They all live in different states. Before we started the divorce process, I mentioned that I was open to the idea of moving if it ever became necessary, but we never made any firm decisions about it. Now that the opportunity is here, I've expressed that I don't want to move given that we're divorcing. I'm not willing to leave Texas, as I value the support system we've built here, and I don't want to be far from my family, especially given that custody is very important to me. I can't imagine being away from the kids, especially after everything we've been through. Financially, she earns significantly more than I do, although we both have high incomes. The promotion would provide her with a generous raise and a relocation package, which would offset the higher cost of living in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. If we moved, it would actually result in a significant decrease in my take-home pay, as I wouldn't have the same relocation benefits and the cost of living would be much higher. I would essentially be taking a financial hit to make this move. My wife is upset and feels that my decision is going to hinder her career advancement. Our divorce has been relatively amicable up until this point, but this has created a lot of tension, and I'm worried it will make things more contentious moving forward. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to move for her job promotion during our divorce? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, maybe I'm alone on this, but I really don't think you're the jerk. It really sounds like you want stability for your kids and for your life in general, and that in my opinion is really important, especially for twins who are growing up. And sure, everything's amicable and it's probably working out, and I think you probably would have been willing to move for your wife, but guess what? This person's about to become your ex-wife. You guys are getting divorced for one reason or another, and I think it's just not fair for the kids to be ripped up and moved away in such a manner. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think the original poster is right, or do you think they're being unreasonable for not being willing to move? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and also please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.